All right, it's 9:01, Tuesday morning, March 11th. We'll begin the Floyd County Board of Supervisor meeting. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. It's muted or unmuted.
Okay. These days will be.
Entertain a motion for the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Campbell, second by Carr to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public comment? Ready? Anybody on the phone? Those who are on the phone, welcome to the meeting this morning as well. Item 3, review action regarding the approval of the March 3rd, 2025 minutes.
So moved.
There was a couple of corrections brought to my attention. Very minor, just a misspelling on one, and let me see if I can find them real quick. On section 1, roads, uniform paragraph, it says pass, thought, THOUGHT, it probably should be passed through. And then the meeting adjournment was recorded as 2-0, but it's actually 3-0. So I don't think there's any reason to make those corrections later if we need to.
I think if she knows it, she can just correct it.
Yeah, okay.
Correct, so resend it if you had. You can let her know ahead of the meetings. She can do that and have it corrected before.
I want to make sure both of them, so the pass through and the 3-0 at the end.
Did we have a motion on that? So
We did.
I
I made the motion, you seconded that.
a motion by
You did the
Carr,
first motion.
second by Campbell to approve the March 3rd, 2025 minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 4, review action regarding the approval of claims.
I looked through the claims, I didn't see any.
I went through them as
I
well.
should say Lexi corrected what I saw. Just like there was a $9 car wash that was on Board of Supervisors and should have been Department 51. And I just asked her about why some claims were separated for the all those early childhood claims. But she said that's the way the previous coordinator wanted those as separate checks rather than same check.
And there were some credit card issues, but they were resolved too, correct?
Yeah.
Entertain a motion to approve the claims.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
second that.
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell to approve the claims. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Item 5, updates on various boards and commissions activities since the last meeting.
I had the mediation meeting on the 3rd, Monday. Included our mediation meeting, I'm waiting for the judge to finalize the findings and
Issue an
And,
report.
and then they told me, I guess, that I would be the one to tell the board about the findings, so. And that was gonna take a while, so I have no idea, you know.
I had a NIACOG meeting last night. Kind of short and sweet meeting, about less than 45 minutes, and they did go over their fiscal year 24 audit. They had just received that report, but there was a couple errors that their auditing firm needs to correct, and then we'll get that for the board to note at a future meeting. I did have a meeting with, Gail asked me to meet with her regarding some public health wages. And so that can be talked about during budget discussions later. I don't know if you guys are listening in on the ISAC weekly webinars. I haven't been until just last Friday, and they're very informative. They had probably about a dozen legislative bills that were talked about, including property tax reform, which was very informational. One on county engineers doing what your resolution is for today. There's a bill for that. The renewable energy bill. There was mental health advocate, several different things. And if you go to ISAC's email that they send out about that, you can click on the link and you can watch the whole thing. It's limited to 1 hour, so it's a pretty quick thing to listen to, but very, very informative. I need to kind of stay on track and watch those. It kind of gives us what we need to be working on for budget stuff as well. I attended the Charles City Council meeting. They had their hearing on the disposition of city property behind the hospital, and this is the property that the Area Development Corp also has property that we've been working with on getting the potentially getting the Caden Properties project moving forward. So they did approve an agreement to with Caden Properties to purchase their land, but it has certain criteria that they have to meet before they release that. One being they can get the housing credits to move forward with their project. So that's out there. But Caden Properties. City Council, Charles City Council meeting. Yep, it's their public hearing. Yep. Yesterday, all week prior week, I've been working with Sue Logan on the ICAP grant, that Iowa Child Abuse Prevention Program grant that we on February 24th, you all said go forward with that. That application is due today. Sue and I got that wrapped up yesterday, so that's all done. And then I have been interchanging emails with Mary McConnell regarding the mental health advocate that we don't have in our budget currently, but we do have to put that in our budget as well. It will end up being a wash because whatever we have to pay that mental health advocate, then we have to file a claim with the mental health state program to get that, recover that money back. But we do have to get that in our budget yet.
All right, I attended the FMC landfill on Tuesday the 4th, and they'll be replacing their scale in May with a new, it's going to be another pit style scale. And I think the cost is about $150,000. So, and they intend to do the work starting on a weekend and maybe finishing it by Monday. So, they'll have to find an alternative scale to use on Monday or Tuesday of the following week for their trucks, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be a real big deal. So,
Are they open 6 days a week, or do they close a day?
Well, they're open 5 unless the wind's blowing too strong, then they close.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So are they, is like that one of those days, Monday or Tuesday, one of the days they're closed anyway, or are they working it around that? Or?
Yeah. Then I attended the motel tax meeting through the chamber. They gave out 3 grants, and one of them was to Floyd County Conservation for $500 for new banners that they use at shows and meetings, I guess. So, and also a Main Street meeting on Friday the 7th was a board meeting, and they're doing the same thing. They're trying to replace their banners that they put on the light poles up and down Main Street. So, and it's been an ongoing project for a few months, but sounds like it's going to happen. So that was the extent of my meetings. Item 7 or item 6 on the agenda. Review action regarding resolution 06-25 to embargo River Road. Adam,
Morning, everyone.
morning.
All right, River Road, my understanding is this is kind of an annual embargo. You just want to protect the road. I guess the sub base is not per se, and it's a lot of truck traffic.
Yeah.
So this, resolution, we've got it worded, so this will be an annual embargo. So we don't have to come back in here and redo this resolution every year. That out quick.
Is that a normal thing to do? I mean, if it doesn't need to be embargoed, like,
I have been told that we basically embargo it every year.
yeah,
So instead of coming back here every year to do this resolution, we put on here, will occur on an annual basis until further notification. Typically, I believe they say from March till about June. This road is embargoed.
Is that the road north of Floyd? Okay. So we need a motion to, any discussion? Does anyone have any questions for Adam on this resolution?
just new having it on an annual basis. But if you don't want it done that way,
I'm looking for the resolution on
it's on page 4 of the packet.
page 4. Okay, hold on, I got it right email.
I look at last year's.
Is it on, was it Friday, you sent it?
No, I sent it yesterday.
It's like last year's resolution, it doesn't have any dates for embargo. The only thing about it is that sentence.
We don't, is there a way that we don't have to do this annually?
That's what I've
That's
got.
what he's got
That's
in
what
there.
you
Got down there, yes.
Yeah, we've never had it that way before, so it's just a change. I mean, you've done it, this is your 3rd time, and it's been an annual thing. I don't know if that's normal for an embargo. I mean, if you don't need it,
If we don't need it, then I'll put signs up.
then you'll come to the board and say, we're doing a resolution to not embargo the road.
I'd have to think about that. It depends on the situation. I mean.
I think if you're saying it's an annual thing, then it's an annual
Annual
thing, but if
thing,
you
yes.
wouldn't need it, then you'd
Yes.
have to come back and say, we need a resolution to
It
not
takes,
embargo this.
it takes effect when appropriate signs are erected. So if I don't erect the signs, it's not in effect.
You have to put the signs up for it.
You've got to put the signs up before it goes into effect, correct?
Okay. Well, that could be on the continuous resolution then. That's what you
Yeah.
got there. Okay. So. Entertain a motion to act on resolution number 6-25 to embargo River Road.
I'll make the motion that we
I'll second.
give them the right to embargo it every year. I can't.
I'll second it. I hope you're right, what you're telling us. We're going on faith
I mean,
with what you're saying.
I don't understand big deal to come in and just ask once a year, but
I don't either.
you know,
If that's what you would like me to do, I have no problem with that.
well, I just trying to think what would be the downfall or the upside real quick, and I can't come up with one or the other.
Yeah.
Other than we're not aware of it, maybe all of a sudden, you know.
This Iowa Code 321-471 allow it to be a automatic recurring. Did you look at that code section?
I have not, but I can.
I guess I'd like to have him look at that and bring it.
Back next week.
Yeah,
We table this, can we table it for another week?
What-
Adam, or-
What if we did this? Is there any criticalness right now to get it embargoed? If so, can we just
It's,
just not address this until, let them take a look at the code section and then come back to us yet today before.
what code section was that?
It's in the ordinance, or in the thing, it's 321.471.
Would you be able to table it for later in the meeting?
Yeah,
Later, this meeting, sure. Yeah, we can delay it till then.
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
already got a motion and a second, so let's just hold off on the vote on
Yeah,
it.
we'll delay it, hold off until.
And I'll go up and review
You have
this
a
code
chance to
section
look
and
at
make sure
that?
there's
Yeah.
nothing in there that,
Okay,
yeah, just
absolutely.
clear that up.
You're the next item too, before you leave.
Yeah, I've got two more, so.
We got multiple.
Item seven is review action regarding resolution 725, county engineer designation, authorization on behalf of the board of supervisors to approve projects.
This resolution is one we signed back when I was an interim county engineer. I believe I told you then it'd have to be redone when I became county engineer. So that's
Okay,
what
it's
this
just a,
is.
okay.
so I just want to mention that just listening on Friday's ISAC webinar, that they have House Study Bill 296. Are you familiar with that one?
Might know which one you're talking about, but I'm not familiar with the number
And it,
exactly.
well, it seems like it's kind of related to this, but this year you're wanting to sign off on, that you can sign off on final payments, right? And completion of the project
Yes,
rather than the board of supervisors. And
yes, since everything is done in Doc Express, that way the board does not have to have a Doc Express account and set up a signature, and the chair would have to redo it every year. It's kind of cumbersome.
And so House Study Bill 296 allows the engineer to sign off construction payments during and final construction project. That's a new legislation, so that's something new, which seems like it kind of relates to what you're wanting to do here.
Yeah, this is
And that's maybe
required.
why.
Yes, right now this is required for us to do in order to continue on the Fair Lake projects.
And that bill is supported by ISAC.
Well, this resolution is given the engineer the designation and authorization on behalf of the board of supervisors to approve projects. Right? I mean, it's not any more complicated than that, right?
Correct. yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a
Well,
motion
hey,
to entertain that.
Yeah, just a little more discussion on it though, but that's projects that have been approved already by the Board of Supervisors 5-year plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't circumvent that.
Right, so if
And
there's,
this is for-
unless there's some
This is for
amendment
farm to
to,
market and federal or state aid projects.
yeah, that's all in the 5-year plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can't let anything that's not in the 5-year plan, especially through the DOT.
So if you would if you would do something outside of your 5-year plan, that would have to be approved by the board, or amend.
Yeah, you would have to amend the
Yeah.
program, yes.
Yep, I'm on board. Yeah. So if you're looking for that motion, I would motion to approve resolution 0725, county engineer designation / authorization on behalf of the board of supervisors to approve projects. That wording, I think,
I'll second that motion.
A motion by Carr, second by Campbell to approve resolution 725, county engineers designation authorization on behalf of the board of supervisors to approve projects. Morgan, would you call the roll?
Carr.
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye. Motion passed.
and the title just kind of throws me a little bit because it says approved projects, but it's the, not the, he can't override you and approve a 5-year plan without your approval.
Correct.
It's the certification of
Yes,
completion.
I believe this wording is in the county IMs exactly word for word.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and this was approved back when I was the interim engineer as
Yep.
well. So.
Okay, item number 8 on the agenda is review action regarding resolution 825, payment marking bids for project FM-CO 34 118-55-34. Gonna paint some stripes on the road, are you?
Yes, we left this project back in March. Global Traffic Services was low bid for $146,829.74. And I would recommend approval.
Entertain a motion to approve the resolution of 825.
I so move.
Second.
Motion by Campbell, second by Carr. To approve resolution 0825. Any comments? Discussion?
Or make sure the resolution is correct date at the bottom.
Yeah.
We're good.
Morgan,
Got that.
Just-
make the roll call.
Carr,
I,
Campbell,
Aye.
Kiefer.
Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
You'll be back with that
I
other.
will be back with that. as
All
soon
right,
as I
thanks,
can get
Adam.
that. Yep.
Well,
All right, item number 9, review action regarding the family farm tax credit application.
You guys have approved the rest of the farm or family farm tax credit applications previously. This one, however, was found. It was turned in on time. It just wasn't in the right stack. So when it was found, they brought it to me to have you guys go ahead and approve it. Do you guys have any questions on it that we can answer if we need to?
make the motion that, approve this, family farm tax credit application by, Scott and Amanda Glasser.
Motion by Campbell, second by Carr. To approve the farm tax credit application for Scott and Amanda Glazer. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Item number 10, review action regarding Taylor Zakuni invoice for $116.99 for judicial review of IUC permit and $117 for pipeline and road right-of-way ordinances.
you give us an update on your conversation with Tim for the 107?
Yeah, I called, excuse me, I called Tim Whipple, it's maybe been a month ago now. There was some incorrect information going around the county about it being too late to intervene with phase 2 of the pipeline, which is the Poet Navigator line. And Tim explained to me that it's not too late. Of the 9 counties that were a part of this group, only one had actually intervened, and that was Bremer County. And the rest of the counties, according to Tim, we're waiting to see what the results are from intervention in phase 1 of the pipeline. So I didn't take it any further, but we can do it if we want to at some point in time. If more counties become interested in intervening.
So this is, phase two. Phase one was, I think this was done before
Yeah.
I got on.
Phase two, if I understand it correctly, phase two is Summit bought Navigators, bike rights or whatever, and Poet was part of that, Poet Refinery or their ethanol plants. And we can intervene with that and Tim, give me the information on how to do it. We can, phase two is a large docket. There's 14 different dockets and there may be 14 different hearings for phase two, and each docket is an actual ethanol plant. So right now, Beaver County is the only one participating in phase two of the 9 counties that Tim represents. And we can go into, get an additional agreement to go into the phase two intervention if we want to. And I don't think that it's necessary at this time.
Well, you know, considering what came out of last week in South Dakota, where the governor, you know, signed.
Yep.
I mean, this,
They don't have anywhere to go with it right
well,
now.
there's just nothing, yeah, right now, but.
So that was the reason for the $117 bill.
Nowhere to go unless I can do it without eminent domain, but
Yeah.
that's what he voted with their bill, is to not allow eminent domain.
So I think we ought to just wait, like, and see what happens. We spent a lot of money on this already, and so I think I would just be in favor of waiting to see what the other counties
Is
do.
there anything that, as a group with the 9 counties, that it does have to be individual by county? It's not as a whole that we would file one petition as a whole for those,
But each one has to.
have their own arguments, I
Their
suppose.
own arguments, so
I don't know why Bremer County did it as early as they did. I think they did their intervention quite some time ago. And the way Tim Whipple explained it to me, you know, you can do it, but he said the other counties, this group that he represents, are waiting to see what happens.
yeah,
And I think there's some merit to that. It may save us some money if we wait. And
but do we, I mean, actually owe something up till now? I mean, it's been done, or
just
is
my
this
phone call.
ending? Or just a phone call?
Yeah, $117 phone call.
Okay, that has to be. But other than that,
And I guess there's $116.99 for a judicial review of the Iowa Utility Commission permit. And that was something that was done for all 9 counties, and that's our share of that bill.
Right, that's the 9 counties suing the Iowa Utilities Board for allowing the eminent domain.
if we owe that, then need to pay it.
And back to the $117 one, they have that under the pipeline and right-of-way ordinances. And that's kind of a catch-all thing that they put things under, because it's not really addressing pipeline or right-of-way ordinances. But that's how they do that. So I think on that spreadsheet, when you keep track of, there's a spreadsheet, we keep track of how much we're spending on all this. It's other stuff as well, on there.
I cannot wait to get you the mug that says there's a spreadsheet for that.
And on the pipeline and right-of-way ordinances, Boyd, you are gonna go to that meeting tomorrow. I'm going to that meeting tomorrow at 3:30, I think it is. That Tim Whipple will be there. It's a preemptive to the conference on Thursday and Friday, but it's at 3:30 at the convention center.
Is that, or
That is tomorrow at 3:30. Yep. Corey from Bremer County is the one who put this out meeting together. So all the supervisors have gotten emails on that. They just sent an email like on Friday saying they changed the room number. But Tim will be there to talk about, the
It's gonna be at 2:30,
3:30.
3:30.
I can forward you the email.
Yeah, I just,
Is it in Des Moines?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is, the ISAC conferences. The ISAC conference, the legislative session starts tomorrow evening, but kicks off the conference, but there's often some meetings that get set up. There's a solutions meeting at 2:00 and
So I'll entertain a motion to approve those two bills from Ayers County.
I'd make a motion to approve those two bills.
second,
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell, to approve Ayers County invoice for $116.99 and $117. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Motion approved. What'd you find out, Adam?
All right. I did read through this, code 321.471. I did not see anything in there that restricts us from doing this, just one resolution for recurring annually. The only restriction is we can't post it for longer than 90 days in a calendar year. That's the only restriction I saw here, which our office would follow.
You can't post it for the 90 days.
Correct.
Longer than 90 days.
Longer than 90 days.
Yeah. You can only embargo for up to 90 days.
Correct.
And you say that, I remember that from past meetings, yeah.
That's per calendar year, so it can be embargoed every year.
We don't need to change the language in the resolution.
Just if you want to do it annually or not.
I think we could be continuous. We can always change it.
Exactly.
So you just have to keep on your calendar, if you're not embargoing it, come to the board and say, we're not going. I don't know what you need to do.
If I don't post the signs, it's not embargoed.
Yeah.
Obviously had a lot of issues with that road in the past, so embargo it just about every year, from my understanding, except for very few specific circumstances.
I would be in favor of doing a resolution that is continuous. And if it isn't working, we can take a look at it again, or whoever the board is at that time.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, I'll second.
I think you made the motion.
Or did I make the motion?
You made the
last
motion
time?
and I seconded it.
Okay.
And
oh,
that resolution has
So we
recurring.
got it on the table. We're just
It's already,
discussing.
yeah.
Okay. I can't see, I guess I can't see any downfall to the thing other than we wouldn't know about it if something was.
Right. Anybody calls
It calls in, yeah. If we get too many calls, we'll be back.
in.
They can always call our office too.
Yeah.
We can explain.
Oh, no,
what's
they
going
like calling the supervisors.
so all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye. Oh,
Aye.
you had a roll call,
Sorry.
it's a resolution.
I'm sorry.
You were on a roll. You had all the rest of it. Campbell,
Aye.
Carr,
Aye.
Kiefer.
Aye. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you very
Thanks for
much.
checking the code.
No problem.
Now we're down to item 11, discuss radio systems training. This has been kind of an interesting deal. I got some emails last week and phone calls from some local fire departments, county fire departments. They were supposed to turn the radios for the tower on last week and they couldn't do it because dispatch wasn't trained. That's the message I was getting.
I got those same ones, and I followed
Yeah, all
up
around.
myself and called people.
But apparently after that, I don't know if there was some training that took place, but they did turn the tower on and they're using it now. So,
Yeah.
What?
So,
It went out?
no, it hasn't been flipped over to use
Oh,
for paging system, yeah. So, and I've got we all got the same messages. I thought it was all resolved. I was surprised to see the agenda item, thought maybe it hadn't been resolved. But yeah, the training did take place on Friday.
That was just
For
with his
dispatch.
dispatchers, right? Not the
Right,
emergency, the fire departments. and
right. They
stuff.
all have their
They're other.
radios and stuff, yep. So,
Okay.
and it was John's decision to, or, you know, he did make the call saying we're not ready yet, but he was short-staffed. And so he
Yeah.
just wasn't ready. And I know there was some issues with it, how come they weren't ready preemptive to this, but, they are trained now and they flipped over at 6 o'clock on Friday night.
Yep, it's up and working.
Yep.
So it's good. Amen.
Yep.
All right. I'm glad that worked out. So item 12, review action on the 2080 agreement for Saragordo County and Floyd County collection of delinquent court obligations. This has been an interesting story too.
Yeah.
I talked to, well, Lori had to email me or forward an email from the Saragordo County attorney because he had my email address incorrect. But I did get it, and I also called Heather Mathery from North Springs, who was the financial director, Saragordo County. And she explained it to me in layman's terms so I could understand it better, but there's about $56,000 that we owe Saragordo County that they didn't get. And where's that money at is what I'd like to know. Does anybody know?
Yeah, we somewhat talked about this during the budget process because we had our Department 6 that had a lot of money being, revenues coming into it. And so when this came out, I have had conversations with Todd about, is that it? This has been, Liz and I talked about this 6 months ago, probably, and said, where are these revenues going to for these collections? We had she couldn't explain where they were, how they got I believe they were coded to Department 6, which is clerk of court. If you look at your budget sheet, you can see how that's a larger amount of money than usual when we talked about Department 6 budgets. But nobody knew. So we kind of handed it over to Todd and said, you guys have to figure this out. You know, the auditor's office has no idea how the clerk of court's money gets there and how this collection thing, there's a lot of convoluted things with this. And when in your agenda packet, Morgan has the 2080 agreement, and the 2080 agreement reads that Saragordo County is going to pay Floyd County their 10%. So I don't know, there was a lot of this started in fiscal year 23. And that was when Rachel Genby is the one who came to the Board of Supervisors with the 2080 proposal for Saragordo County to do these delinquent collections. And the board approved the 2080 as it was. And then Rachel left in March. And so I think nobody knew what that whole transaction was going to look like. And if you look at the bottom of Carlisle's paperwork here, there was an adjustment to how our money was collected / calculated in late 22, early 23. And there was one revenue in there for, well, I think it was 2 checks that Saragordo County paid Floyd County $1,714.90. And so now he's saying that money needs to come back to them, plus this $56,000.
And that was over how many, since 23 to now?
Well, the 2080 agreement was signed in 2022.
The first payments they did were in fiscal year, I think it was January of 23. When the first payments came in to that fund, if you looked at you'd see, it's that it's $1,714.90, exactly what they had. So I think in Floyd County's defense, we could say, but it says you're paying us by the 2080. So I think probably just with Rachel leaving and Todd coming on, them not knowing how this was gonna work, because it's sure not working like what's in the 2080. And so, as revenues came through, have no idea how the clerk of court got the code that they put on their revenue sheets that they give to the county treasurer. And it says on here, the Floyd County clerk and treasurer were instructed to make the necessary changes to their system to start mailing the money to us for distribution of per the 2080 agreement. And so, and we've had changes in treasurers, we've had change, but Liz and I did try to figure this out, figure it out. So what the resolution is Todd is going to have Chantel in his office look at what's been, that we get the receipts from all of this, and it has several case files. So Chantel is going to reconcile, from what I understand, that by speaking right, I'm gonna have Chantel see what's what. But meanwhile, they do want their money. But if you look at those budgets, Todd has zero budgeted to pay them for collections. And so, and if they have, we just need this confirmation that they have been going to Department 6. I truly think that's where they're going. So if they've been going to Department 26, Department 26 doesn't have a line item to pay $56,000 either.
Does anybody know where this money went?
Okay,
So
so
that's what Todd is having Chantel look into.
So they don't know right now. They don't know where it went.
It's gotta be Department 6.
So when I talked to Heather Mathery, she told me that when Saragordo County gets these funds, delinquent, delayed, juvenile, they have a special account you put the money in.
That's what Todd has, a special account that the money goes in.
But it's not in there, right?
No,
So they.
$1,700 is there, the 17, 14, 19, there's a couple $1,000s in that fund.
Yeah, but the 1,700 was given to us from Saragordo County.
Correct, but they say they did that erroneously, because that's when I'm looking back and seeing, well, there was $1,700 back in 2023, why did it stop? But so Carlisle's email explained why that stopped, because they were no longer sending us money. So the 2080 isn't written well, because the 2080 says Saragordo is going to pay Floyd County our 10%.
So they should have been getting all of the money and then returning 10% to Floyd County.
I sent Carlisle an email back asking if he could explain how these collections and calculations changed. And I don't think I've gotten anything back from him. But I don't doubt, you look at our Department 6, and that has revenues that it's never had before. The clerk of court is Department 6 revenues. So when someone is making their delinquent child support payment, that Saragordo County has either negotiated with them either a payment plan for those collections, or they've paid them in full, but Saragordo prompted that activity, then they make their payments. My understanding from all this is they're making their payments to the clerk of court's office. And then that's where there's all these, they call them thin codes, that are on the statements that the clerk of court gives to the county treasurer. And that's what Liz and I, 6 months ago, she couldn't say, is this thin code 10% or 90% or 100%? And there was no resolution to that. So again, way back 6 months ago, it was provided to the county attorney's office that you guys are gonna have to figure this out.
The reason for this 2080 agreement was Saragordo County was gonna do the legwork to collect
Yes,
the
so
money, right? So they didn't get it. Who did the legwork to collect the money? Was it?
they did, Saragordo did the legwork to
They
collect
did
the
it
money.
anyway, okay.
Yeah, it's just when those people who were delinquent in the child support made their payments, they get paid to the clerk of court. That's who they're paying.
Yep.
Is my understanding. Right. But then the clerk of court has to disseminate that money out, and how they disseminate it out is the mystery. It appears, if you look at the fin codes that they've talked about, they have a fin code that's going to Department 6. So that's what the treasurer has been coding all of those to,
It almost
because
appears
that's
as
what's on the
if,
clerk of court's paperwork.
it almost appears as if the people here didn't know about the 2080 agreement. Almost like they had.
Well, Todd inherited it.
Well, I'm not blaming Todd. I'm just saying somebody didn't know how this was supposed to work, because it didn't work right.
Well, it isn't working for the 2080 that was approved by the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
So there's no way to backtrack. I mean,
Todd is having Chantel cross-check Carlisle's number that we just received last week. Chantel is working on that to see.
but the money was supposed to go to Sarah Gordo County, right?
$57,797.50 is supposed to go to Sarah
I
Gordo.
mean, that's the way it was. It was supposed to go to them from the court, from the, right?
From Floyd County Clerk of Court, delinquent, child support or whatever. Yes, Morgan.
Just to clarify, according to the 2080, Sarah Gorder was supposed to collect this money. According to the way the 2080 is written, Sarah Gorder was supposed to be the ones collecting the money, not through our clerk of court. Sarah Gorder was supposed to be collecting
And
this.
you'll
then
see
when-
that on page 15 of your agenda packet, number 4 on page 15.
So from the get-go, this whole thing is a mess because it's not following the 2080.
Whose fault's that?
I don't know.
Carlisle's, all we have is Carlisle's message in here that says the calculations and collections was changed. That's what my email back, you got your email that Morgan gave you today on how we can remedy this, but also on how this, I don't know if that part's in that email,
No,
there's 2
it's not.
emails. You just have to email to Todd.
Sorry.
Or- That's all right, that's all right.
So do we have the money? Do we have $57,970? Write a check to Sarah Gordo County?
No, that's what the email that Morgan gave to you is that Department 6 doesn't have that much money to write a check. So what happens, it should have gone to Todd's special fund, Fund 14,500, is the county attorney collections incentive fund. That's where all of this should have gone to. Well, assuming these fin codes that went to Department 6 should have gone to Todd's fund. And then Todd needs to budget to spend that money and to receive that money, or to receive the money and then spend the money. And that's, but the only way we can make that happen is because it's different funds. If since sometime the end of fiscal year 23 up to current, that revenue, why it's so high in Department 6 is there, it went into the county's general fund. And so Department 6, if you look at your budget for Department 6, they do not have the money to cut a check for $56,000 without a budget amendment by the Board of Supervisors that requires a 10-day publication notice, 10 to 20-day window for publication notice. So the only thing that you could do at this time, because it needs to be paid out of Todd's fund, not the general fund, but the general fund has to pay Todd's fund for what didn't get put there to begin with. Because it's different funds. So the only way that you can do it, I spelled it out in the email, is the only thing we could do, if they want $5,000 in a short term, the Board of Supervisors could do you can shift up to $5,000 per service area. That's the second set of numbers in the codes that you see in all those budgets that you have. So they could do a shift from Department 6 to Todd's Department 4 Collections Incentive Fund. So General Fund, Department 51, or Department 6 to Todd's 14,500 fund Department 4. That's a short-term thing. But then you can do that without that 5,000, up to a $5,000 shift without a budget amendment. So you could do that. But because that is only $5,000 and they have a couple $1,000s in their fund balance, the only thing that they could do in a short term, once that resolution is done to shift money, is to amend the budget, or excuse me, he could cut a check for $5,000. So potentially if this resolution gets done, there's no doubt we owe him $5,000. But that
Well,
could
we
be
owe more
done,
than $5,000. We owe them $57,997.
right? So have you figured out the rest of that then from what I've just said? The Board of Supervisors has to amend.
Okay,
So the Board of Supervisors has to amend fiscal year 25's budget to do anything above 5,000 or 550,000. So Todd is in the email, it says Todd needs to figure out how much money above that, because collections are still coming in through June. So he's got to figure out how much he thinks collections are going to come in, come to you with a budget amendment request for whatever. It's not just the 56,000. It's also, this only gets us through October of 24. Carlisle's numbers only get us to October of 24. So what since then, Todd's got to figure out what those collections are going to be and how much above 50,000 he's going to have to pay. So we got to amend Department 6 to be
okay,
able to pay
I get that.
that.
So
And then Todd has to ask for amendment for his department,
what are we gonna do
14,500.
going forward? So this doesn't happen anymore.
Todd needs to budget for it.
Budget
It's
for
Todd's
collections?
budget. Budget for the revenue that's coming in and budget for the expense he needs to pay Sarah Gordo County.
So was that Rachel's fault that didn't happen? Did she leave shortly after this?
She left in March 2023.
She was around when this was done.
Yes, so Todd inherited it, and he probably didn't know. He knew they were doing collections, but where the money was going or anything, he probably never thought of it. And like I say, the resolution reads that, or the 28E reads that Sarah Gordo will pay Floyd County its 10%. Sarah Gordo County shall remain responsible for its entire collection participation for monies owed in Sarah Gordo County and will retain 100% of the income received in conjunction with the money collected in Sarah Gordo County and other counties. Sarah Gordo County will retain 90% of the income received in Floyd County. Sarah Gordo County shall remit the remaining 10% to Floyd County at least quarterly.
And they did that $1,700 too early.
No, he says the $1,700 wasn't even appropriately paid.
Well, they want it back.
That's right, because it wasn't
Yeah,
appropriately
that's what
paid.
I mean. Yeah, they paid it wrong,
Yes.
incorrectly.
So that's what this colorful spreadsheet
Yep.
is what should happen. But our due diligence is, we have to make sure that it happened that way, because one of the conversations I had with Todd is this, some of these, are they paid in full, or some of these payment plans? And if they're payment plans, I don't think we should be paying them if this spreadsheet has 100% payment and they've paid $10 on their collections, the delinquent person has paid $10, but they owe $10,000, then is that in here? What's in here? So it's in Todd's court to do some homework, to research.
If it was written that Sarah Gordo would pay us 10% of that, right?
Yes,
So we've been collecting it,
Not at all.
and
so
so
the
we've been the person that's been doing all the legwork, I suppose, they doing all the legwork.
no, they're doing the legwork.
They're
They're
doing
doing
the
the
legwork
collections.
on all
Their
of it?
attorneys are doing the collections. That's what the 28E is. Floyd County doesn't have the attorneys to pursue this collection of delinquent funds. And so Sarah Gordo does this for several counties. And So Rachel came to the Board of Supervisors and said, we can start collecting some of this money through Cerro Gordo County. They'll do all the working with whoever is delinquent. They'll do all the legwork. And then, so they're gonna get 90% and Floyd County will get 10%.
And this Rachel was who?
County attorney.
Rachel can
Oh,
be.
she was the county attorney.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yep.
So,
So it's not looking for blame on anybody. It's the 2080, either it changed the process sometime in there and whether Rachel knew it before she left or didn't know it before she left, I have no idea. But
so what we gotta do is Todd's gotta go back and try to audit this thing and figure out, holy smokes, I mean,
I believe it's going to Department 6. I truly believe it's going to Department 6. Otherwise, I can't see how those revenues would have ever increased like that. And that's the conversation I had with Liz in the clerk of court's office when we were trying to figure this out months ago.
So now that we know that this has been brought to our attention and it's an issue, what's been done to correct it? We're not doing it wrong now.
Nothing's been changed. At this
So we
point,
have-
I mean, I contacted and told Todd, or think in the email, if this is the email.
It's only Carlisle's.
What's that?
It's only Carlisle's.
Okay, the email, sorry, let me forward you the email on the resolution.
I got it. I think Heather sent it to me.
What's that?
I think Heather Matthew sent me,
and it.
Heather didn't get our resolution to it.
no, well,
And Carlisle didn't get ours.
That's just Carlisle's email. I apologize. I didn't have Gloria's response in it.
So we really can't do much until we hear back from Todd, right?
Todd has Chantel, his response was he's having Chantel review the information.
Yeah.
The quickest thing we can do is if they can vet what's being said, the quickest thing you can do is then next Monday, you could have a $5,000 check. If Todd says, yep, let's do this shift of money, we could have a $5,000 check, but that has to be by resolution of the board. The only thing we can do, because nobody's budget has more than because of what is allowed, that you can shift up to only up to 5,000. There's nothing more than $5,000 that we can pay in the short term.
Right, I understand all that. I just,
Typically,
what I just can't quite get through my head right now is why we quit.
I don't understand. I have no answers for you on that, Boyd. Other than what's in the 2080, I don't know how it goes. I mean, I can imagine if it's only thing I can think of is if it's a delinquent claim, have this case and John Doe has to pay X amount of dollars. They've done negotiations. The only thing I can think is when John Doe is paying his debt, he's writing a check to Floyd County Clerk of Court. Yes,
Well,
it's the only thing I can think. And then the clerk of court is putting these codes on the check that they give to the county. There's multiple codes. It's collections for sheriff serving papers that go to one fund. There's, I don't know what, half a dozen, maybe 10 account codes that the clerk of court puts on this report and takes it to the treasurer's office. And
Jim, would you like to make a comment?
If you wouldn't mind,
Yeah, you're recognized.
the Iowa Court Information System. These delinquent court obligations are district court matters. You can go on the Iowa Court Information System and get all kinds of information. Just in listening to this discussion, I'm saying to myself, why are we having a 28E agreement at all? Because the distribution should come directly to us and we should receive them. and then use them in the appropriate way. And my point is, we're getting a middleman, which sometimes that's appropriate in business or government to have a middleman that saves you money. But in this instance, it just doesn't seem sensible for Floyd County taxpayers to not just do it ourselves. Isn't that the way we did it before the 2080 agreement? Tell me how it was done.
They just sat there, nothing was being collected. Delinquent ones, the county attorney said they don't have the staff to do delinquent collections. And so that's how Cerro Gordo County got involved. They do this for a handful of counties, that they have attorneys that they can do this. And so that's why Rachel came to the Board of Supervisors and said, we can get this collection. Now, 90-10, I think is a crazy, we only get 10%, I think is a bit crazy.
10% for doing nothing if it worked right.
Well, 10% is better than nothing,
Well,
but
Yeah.
10% seems like a very minimal of, because if
well, we
Well-
agreed to it. I mean,
Board of
Yeah.
Supervisors agreed to it.
yeah, so we have to live with it.
You
Right.
could terminate that contract if you wanted to. Todd could look for another means of doing those collections. That's gonna be Todd bringing it to the Board of Supervisors.
The bottom line for me is, what is the wisest use of Floyd County taxpayer dollars? We're gonna drive some money by doing this, and it benefits, but if we can do it on our own and cut that out, we ought, that's the choice that you're faced with, it seems to me.
Well, apparently we couldn't do it. That's why we went into this 2080 agreement with Cerro Gordo
We don't have
County.
enough
We
attorneys
don't
or
have the
whatever.
staff to do it.
I
to
looked
do it.
back,
I agree here, but what a conundrum, I mean, what I can't quite understand either is if this went in 22, how come it took this long to figure that out?
again, I think it
I
has
mean,
to be
if
the
they got all-
transition
they're
from
doing
Todd.
all the work. Shouldn't they have been on top of this? I mean, I'm not sure we're completely liable or for all this. I mean, if they're the ones who's supposed to collect the money, how they miss this? I mean, a little inept on their part, I think, isn't it?
I
Think so. I don't know.
Well, I mean, how do you're not getting anything for 3 years? I mean, come on. And now all of a sudden we got a bill. I think what we have to do, already said, Todd's gotta, kind of go through this and, then this $5,000 that you're talking about, I mean, and that is what, just a payment on this? Is that what?
Less than
that's
10
a token.
less than
If they want the
10%.
5,000 or if they want to wait till you do a budget amendment and do the whole thing. But that's where Todd's got to come up with what are those numbers?
I
Because
think
this
there
only
should be
goes
some
through.
negotiation on that. I'm not sure we should go ahead and pay him $5,000, kind of like an admission of guilt. And I'm not sure we're the guilty party here completely,
Agree.
So I think here we go again,
Yeah.
we just
It's
need
like-
to meet, come in here, but I don't think we're at all at fault on this. And I think giving them $5,000 is an admission of guilt, which I'm not sure is right.
That's why I say it has to be vetted. If Chantel can get the work done that Todd's
Have her
asked
start
for,
doing it,
it
and
needs
we'll
to be
go from
vetted.
there, but I'm not in favor of giving them one dime yet, because I'm not sure we're a guilty party on this. I mean, somewhat, you know what I mean?
The only thing that's recently come out of it is that they've identified these thin codes that they call them through the clerk of court's office.
Okay.
And they're saying that's what this is the collections. But what I just have so many things that I'm still not sure of. If they negotiated someone with a payment plan, like I say, for $10,000 to pay $100 a month. Does he have 10,000 in here that we owe him for? Or does he have what's been collected that we owe them for? So I'm not sure of the $50,000 number. I believe we owe them money.
Probably do.
Yeah, but I believe 90% is pretty gracious, and I would suggest that, you know, we're getting out of all of this, we're getting 10%. So we got $5,000 out of the deal of 100% of collections. I think it's,
Well,
I don't know.
the board agreed to it at that time.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
they signed 2080, and at that time thought it was okay. But, where is 5,000? I don't see that in
no, she didn't send that email.
Carlisle's email.
I didn't tell Carlisle our plan. I told Carlisle the most we could do, because we have nothing budgeted, is we could do $5,000.
I only printed Carlisle's email.
Oh, you didn't put my response.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying, is
Gotcha.
I only. Carlisle's
Well,
then that's fine.
I can forward you those emails, but it's basically everything I've told you.
yeah.
But I can,
So has Todd been in touch with Carlisle, do you think? Deal with
he's been included in the string of emails that you got, and, yeah.
I guess we wouldn't know if he's been in touch with him by phone, I guess, but,
Add to the scope of this, the stack of papers that Chantel needs to go through is this thick.
Yeah.
We copied them for her,
I don't even,
so it is a lot of
envy
information
that.
to go through for the
I
last
know.
3 years.
yeah, they would just tell, sir, you know, we'll give you half.
it's gonna be a while before we get.
I mean, that's a
I
tough
know.
one, Boyd, because that is what the supervisor negotiated or worked with in the 2080s. We only get 10%. We just gotta figure out what their 90% is.
Understand why it came to us and they didn't have any inkling of an idea of where this money's coming from, not coming from.
So
You know,
what action are
50,000
we gonna
maybe is,
take on it?
50,000 maybe isn't, in the scheme of things, probably isn't very much for them to catch. You know, with this whole process. So I can see why it maybe has taken time.
How many people are they collecting for besides us?
I don't know. I just know that from conversations with Todd, he said they do this for other counties. I wish Todd was here. I thought, did Todd
Well-
respond he wasn't available?
I don't know, I did send him another
We
message
don't
right
have enough
before it
information.
came up and let him know it was happening. That he was getting close on the agenda.
Yeah, so it just needs to be vetted. I'm just not comfortable cutting a check for $56,000.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
We gotta go through and audit it somehow.
So with
What
Todd
kind of
not,
action are we gonna take on this today?
well, again, I wish Todd was here because the potential action would be that the board agrees to do a shift, and next week you would do your resolution to do that shift and cut a check for $5,000. But without Todd here, I
don't think we can do anything.
I'm good with that.
Okay, so we'll table this for now.
There's nothing to table.
Yeah.
It's just-
Until we get more information and, we need to talk to Todd and figure out, I'm not, absolutely not, wouldn't cut them a check for that or $5,000 until, I can't understand how come they didn't, I mean, my gosh, you know, they got them. I don't think we're completely at fault. Yeah. You know.
I think
can
it's,
lose 50,000
but
until now.
if it's owed, then it just.
How they figured this out now?
I have no idea.
I mean, all of a sudden,
Well, it was brought up, like I say, 6 months ago, because Liz and I tried to figure it out 6 months ago, what should be of those reports that she's giving to the treasurer's office and we get copied on, what is the, what is collection? Because if you look at those reports, there's some things that say county attorney split, county attorney collections, among a dozen other thin codes that mean something to somebody, but not to us. And
Well, but let's just table this and talk to Todd. We don't have enough information. We can beat this dead horse.
but what I want you to recognize is this, if Carlisle's numbers are correct, this is a $56,000 hit, plus if there's a December payment or a December
Well,
quarter.
you're not telling me.
Yep, I get, that's what I wanna make sure you get, because
Yeah,
we just hit our
I get
general
it.
fund $56,000.
I get it, but
The revenue's been going there, and if it's been going there incorrectly, we've gotten the revenues, but it's still a hit to take that revenue away that we expected to be in the general fund.
Okay, we're gonna table it.
yeah, yeah. Jeez.
So there's just nothing to do.
So, item 13. On the agenda is note post-election audit report, auditor certification of Central Springs Community School District and North Butler Community School District special election. North Butler's didn't pass, I don't think, if I remember right.
It didn't
I
again?
don't think so. No. And I guess I'm not sure about Central Springs.
Central Springs did pass.
They did.
Oh, so Central Springs didn't pass the last time.
But neither did North Butler last time.
Oh, it didn't. Gotcha. So this looks good. Looks like you had 100% match.
Oh, my computer.
I went through my first election audit yesterday. And luckily it was a small election. I heard that this could be a very long, very tedious process when you get into something that isn't just a yes, no situation and isn't just 201 ballots to count. So,
But so the Secretary of State's office does a draw on what precinct gets counted. And of course, Marble Rock had 6 voters.
and we combined Rockford and Norris Springs polling places, and Rockford was actually the one that was picked. So that means that we had to audit our Norris Springs one because they had been combined, which is how we ended up auditing the 201 versus auditing the 6. Which is fine. It's just a thing. It's the state, the Secretary of State decides that. It comes out on Wednesday morning after an election. You do it.
And it's good to see this because what this does, Boyd, is you maybe caught this from the November election, but what this does is it is confirming that the scanned ballots that went through are accurate with a hand count, they match a hand count. And we've done this, have had to do this audit for, I don't remember, half a dozen years probably. We have had 100% accuracy every single time.
Yep.
That's
So,
good news.
so whether you use the touch screen or you fill out a paper ballot, it's all the same, it's all accurate, and it's all counted.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, there is good news.
Is there anything else I'm supposed to say about this?
No, that's it. This, by the code requires that the Board of Supervisors have this information. So in the minutes, so it's just noted.
We don't have to take
You
it.
know, no action, just note that. It's a good confirmation, so the Board of Supervisors can see that that election equipment is doing what it's supposed to do. And it's a, some people's, there's still conspiracy theories, black box theories about election equipment. And that's that the equipment that Floyd County uses has been accurate in these audits that have been done over years.
Good.
So the Rock Grove, Rockford Township combined,
Yes,
how many votes? 6?
201.
201 for the
201.
combined, yep, 201 for the combined location.
There it is, okay.
And you had absentees
Yeah,
from
there
there.
were several absentees also for
Yeah.
that measure.
So there's 3 precincts they could have chosen from: Rock, Norris Springs, or absentee. They could choose absentee also. But, and
There was
usually absentee is a higher turnout.
Yeah, and there was 20 something
20 something.
absentees, so, I believe.
This is good news. Good job.
That's good.
It was quite the ordeal.
So what do we need to sign?
Nothing, you just
Just
know
noting
it. We'll deal with the rest of the canvas in the next meeting.
Any other discussion or comments on the post-election audit report for North Central and North Butler, or Central Springs and North Butler, I should say? Okay. Future agenda items, number 14.
Well, get Todd in.
He's aware. He needs to bring it to the board's attention.
He's aware of this. I think I haven't talked to Todd about it
Yep, I
myself.
forwarded you both of the emails, the email that went to Carlisle and the email that went to the internal group of
Okay,
people.
just, okay. Computer went down for some reason.
Oh, you did?
Got it back, I don't know, it went,
Oh, she went to sleep maybe.
no, it went gray.
You want to plug it in?
No, it's, so I got plenty, I don't know what happened, I just turned it off, turned it back on, it's okay now, so.
All right. So future agenda items will be obviously the St. Louis Roberto County. Any other ideas or items to consider?
I have a list. Go ahead, you go.
Yep.
Thank you for recognizing me. Will there be an agenda item in the future concerning the working group on the wind farm and what their report is?
I'm sure there will be when we get it.
That's what
Yeah.
Boyd mentioned earlier.
Yeah, my understanding was that I would present it to the board, but somebody was gonna write it up, which I assumed was the judge, you know, the head of the mediation. And, they gave me no real time frame, but I would suspect it would be coming pretty quickly because we have the moratorium, supposed to go off the 17th of March, which is next.
Monday.
Yeah, so we may even have to,
That you would want to do the
Extend
year,
that.
yeah. So next week, extend your
yeah,
moratorium.
extend the moratorium again until we get, I can present that and then we can go on with the third reading, I guess. So, all I know, they can give you. So,
Well, time is of the essence.
We're yeah, going as fast as I can.
Government moves sometimes turn very slowly.
Oh, no, not this government.
I did,
Appreciate it.
one of the things, if you go back and listen on that ISAC's March 7th meeting, that Senate File 376 was the renewable energy bill that was out there.
What number was that?
Senate File 376.
It's been dropped.
Yeah.
That did not make the funnel cut. But, and probably the good of that is that it pretty much stripped local regulations, that the state would have more regulation. Yeah. Steep regulations, and the local government would not have much for regulations.
Yeah.
Not sure that it won't come up in some other bill amendment.
Okay, well, Move on to item 15, the fiscal year 26 budget reviews. I think I'd like to take a 5-minute break before we start on that.
Yeah.
Is that okay with everybody?
Be okay with me. These don't work. We're not young men, by the way. Oh, no, no, no. So I'll squeeze.
But you emailed, there's changes to what was emailed about the water duties and the expenses.
I believe in budgets are
The
boring.
treasurer,
Boring. Let me say that before.
Mention our-
There's been other
Oh,
business
gosh,
to
there's
do.
so many
Sure.
things.
Ready to-
You get your book, because I think you made a point of your book, and I read her notes.
There's the theme, that's from the Business Improvement Committee meeting, that's all of the members of the committee. Some people sign their names in a way that they're illegible. Okay. You can read my name on the top of them, okay?
Yeah.
When we turn this in, do we need to print out the illegible names for you?
That would be very helpful.
That's my whole deal.
Intending it as a letter to the editor.
Pardon me now?
Intending it as a letter to the editor, or just as the basis of a news story, or what was the intent?
Letter to the editor. Yeah, we're just making our position known in writing.
All right.
I'm all about choosing every word carefully. One word that we don't need, but every word we do need.
Not me. I just throw it out there willing. Let the readers decide.
Look at the difference between you and me.
What's that?
By ink by the barrel and paper by the ring.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
I'm just the silent voice of the wilderness.
Some papers buy it by the train tank load.
How many different ways have you heard that presented about what you know? Ink by the barrel.
Yep.
I pull up these old things because I'm old fashioned, I'm just saying.
Don't start an argument. Someone buys ink by the barrel.
I have heard that, but it's been a long time since I heard that.
Well, guess what? I'm going home and I'm gonna open up my mailbox. You know what's gonna be in there?
Hopefully a newspaper.
And I'm gonna read it cover to cover. Okay?
Okay. Kind of a light week, but some good stuff.
This is March of 2025.
every day. Every day.
I 2024.
So you gotta speak up.
Okay.
But that's in the past. Making decisions today. You know what?
Well, we didn't make a decision about the Cerro Gordo thing.
That's a
That's
little,
because there's not enough information yet.
that's a little learning laboratory for you when you do the North Springs Butler elections, you know?
Yeah.
You learn by doing,
Absolutely.
and you'll have it down after you've done a few.
Yes.
But how many times have I said to you, patient with
Patient and give myself grace.
grace is a good word.
Yes.
Well, because to be perfect in everything all the time.
Yeah, it would be nice.
That's a high standard.
It's hard to admit that you're wrong almost every week on
I don't
something.
want to hear that there's not the right language in the 2080 agreement. We're choosing every word carefully, every word.
Yes, and if they find out that something wasn't written the way it needed to be, they need to change it, but they gotta figure out what's going on before they can start making changes or doing anything. They gotta figure out what happened, so.
Well, exactly, I mean, if they should have been on top of this and doing the work, part of this lays at their doorstep, I think.
Here's the deal. When I was in business, I had statements for the work I did, and I collected every one of them. That's how I got paid. But there might be something where I would say, here's a statement, I'm not getting paid. It's worth me, I can make some money by getting assistance. So I can somewhat see the rationale. But based on what I was listening to, I'm thinking, this doesn't make any sense to me.
You and me both. No,
Claims, I just need you to sign them for Lexi. There's two different ones.
but. I would like to know what got them figuring out where they missed this money. Why all of a sudden did they get smart?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm new.
Not all our fault, I don't think. Oh, that was just their,
It's been there. Oh,
been there.
Oh, that's from the office, yeah. Okay. Take it back and go with me.
Okay, before we go start on the budget, at the bottom of the agenda, there's a canvas, March 5th, special election on March 11th. And it's asking for review and action regarding resolution 925, certification of Floyd County election results. We didn't do that, did
it's a totally different meeting. It's a separate meeting. It has to be, and it just has to be after 10 o'clock that we started. So once this regular meeting is done, we have to do our canvas of the election.
So you're flipping your hats off, you're taking your board of supervisor hat off and you're putting your board of canvassers hat on.
So, okay, but we could have done this when we did.
No.
Okay, we can't do it when.
Separate meetings.
Separate meeting?
Yeah.
Okay,
What you could do if you wanted to get the canvas done, I mean, you could, as long as you don't start it before 10 o'clock, which we're well past that,
yeah,
you can start it later. So we could do budget discussions, or if you wanted to recess from your regular agenda and hold your canvas meeting and then come back into your regular meeting. You could do that if you want to get that canvas over, but you don't, wouldn't have to. You could close your, we just don't want to forget to do it.
well, I promised Morgan that she could leave at 12:45 today, right, Morgan?
Yep, so as long as we're out of there by then,
So
that's fine.
that's 2 hours. The budget gonna do that
A lot of the stuff that we made changes in the budget for, like we updated before last week, so we kind of already talked about, so.
So,
Talked about quite a few of them, so.
and if there's a chance, I do have 11:30 meeting, but if I miss it, I miss it.
one. Can't miss hers.
Let's do the camp, let's get out of that and do that then, and so.
Okay,
So I make a motion that we recess from the regular board meeting in order to do the canvas of election and then return to the regular board meeting after the canvas.
I'll second that.
motion by Carr, second by Campbell to adjourn our regular scheduled meeting.
To
Or
recess.
to recess, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we'll move on down to the bottom of our, to the canvas of the March 5th, 2025 special election. Motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make the motion. to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Campbell, second by Carr to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Canvas of election results, which we did already.
We have not canvassed the election at all. We're just
Well, we
starting.
talked about the votes, yeah.
That was just one precinct.
That was Red Rockford.
That wasn't absentees and it wasn't power. This is the canvas.
So. I have the official canvas. I have this, I have tally books, if anyone needs to look at them. Best way to present this.
So, this is the opportunity that the Board of Supervisors can look at what happened at the tally, there's a first canvas of the election. That's what the election officials do at their precinct. So the 3 precincts did their first canvas. So you have a chance to look at those results in those tally books that she has. And compare those to what she has in the abstracts and the canvas of the election.
It's all right there.
Yep.
The goodies, okay.
You ever wanna see the goodies?
Yeah.
You could take, since there's 2 canvases, you could take 2 canvases and there's 2 abstracts for each. You could,
Which
so
one was that one of these?
Well, they're each a different precinct, so this
Okay.
one is the Marble Rock precinct, so that's what it says there.
Okay.
And then you have your tally books, so this is what the election officials go through at the end of the night, or beginning of the day, end of the day. Everything is quadruple checked.
so in the gold envelope would be their tape of election results.
Yes. So, this has to do with the number of ballots counted, so that all ballots are accounted for. They started with 90, they used 6. There was 84 unused, and that's a total of
Okay.
90.
Gotcha.
Inside this envelope, then the tapes showing,
Each ballot.
it doesn't show each ballot, the ballots are not here, but the, number of votes is 6.
Okay.
Which is where those 6 were.
Okay.
And then these are the tapes of from the beginning of the night. So you get one at the very beginning of the day. This one is at 6:11 in the morning when they start getting everything set up, and then this one is at the end of the night and they start closing everything down after 8 o'clock.
We got 6 ballots.
We got 6 ballots.
So if you compare that to the canvas that she has, the
Is that this one?
canvas, yep,
Okay.
that's just the cover page.
This is for Central Springs, and then so then this one is for North Butler. And you can compare that, but there were 6 total votes, 1 yes, 5 no's.
Okay.
And were there any absentees?
Not
that
for-
precinct?
not for-
Not for that precinct. So that's what you're verifying, that 6 number then. And that she has so many yeses and so many no's match your tape that you're looking
I
at.
have to sign
I sent it this one.
You sign it after the board approves.
all the boards.
So does the canvas show 5?
Everyone, right?
That's wrong. 1 yes,
Yep.
5 no's.
And that you check that with all those precincts. So that one's done because they didn't have any. So we'll make another copy because then we want this to Portal County, or to Worth County, and one to Butler County, so then they can.
Welcome to how the first time of everything goes. Okay, so if
So we
you're,
wait on signing
Yeah,
that
you guys
till the
have to
whole
approve
board.
it. Yep.
Okay, you got
so
that, Dennis?
do you wanna see these done?
Yep.
Okay, let's keep them with this right envelopes so that we don't get
Yeah.
mixed together. So this is the tally book that goes with these votes. Goes together, then we can look at, this one is North Springs. Here's your book. So we delivered 170 ballots, used 74 paper ballots. They used. So that 74 people voted on our touchscreen machines.
This is the Red Rock.
And then there were 43 by the end of the night that were unused. That all goes.
Nope.
This here, so then there's 200.
That one was
total
good,
voters.
that one was, this one was.
So
a
that
6.
matches here. And then the yeses and nos, which we'll compare with the sheet.
1 yes,
is
5 no's.
151 yes, 50 no's.
On this came.
Central Springs. And then this
1
is
yes,
your,
5
you got a starting tape and an end tape. So
And that's all we
a-
need to see on that. Go.
This
This
is
is all
the
back to
supposed to
where
give.
it started. Yep, as long as it matches what we have here.
Yeah.
And it matches their abstracts. Good abstracts.
So then that's where the tape where it says yeses and nos right here, 151, 151.
There weren't any absentees in any of them.
There,
In North, or in, yeah,
Central
Central Springs.
Central Springs, okay.
And
so
then
now that
here,
matches up with our.
there were 1 vote,
Yeah.
4 and 5 against. Yep. So that was
Kudos
good
to you
for
for
that.
learning.
That's good.
Right.
Yep, it was good. Back.
Show back.
Let's look at this, please.
Okay. This, for, we have precinct. We have 151 yes,
So when we
50
got
no.
there, that morning, the internet was not turned on. So the internet just turned on until after people had come through. So they used the paper check-in book instead of the tablet to check those two people in. So that's why it says 2 is the book is those first 2 people got you.
And we add that and the absentees. Please put that away. That goes below.
This is the absentee.
Close to the same envelope.
Yeah, and which envelope do you have?
I have. North Springs, this is North Springs, this is
He just gave you that.
Lafargue.
This one goes with this one.
This one is. So. Is it 3 tapes for this one? Ferd Rock Grove is North Springs. This one is.
You want the 5-0 or 5-1. And
Yep, so this is Ferd Rock one.
maybe I'll open, maybe I'll open the equipment table.
That's why there's 3. So then this one could be Springs one.
This back on my side. Yes.
Here's the tally book. And North Springs, which you guys just looked through.
We just need to add the absentees to make sure they match this total, or the two add together.
So the absentees is its own precinct, but it's. So there's our absentee team doing their sign-ins and stuff, which is what you see on the narrow tapes from a polling place. Yeah.
There's closed papers. From from the, yeah, close.
Closing, this was a 0 balance.
So 16 yeses, 6 noes. So that's what the absentee did. Then your abstracts should show for this one a total of 223 for North Butler, Central Springs, North Butler, and but this is North Central
Was
Springs.
that the total number of votes between both school districts?
And this is,
223?
no, 223 is just North Springs, absentees in North Springs, Central Springs. And this one, 6, is just,
No problem.
that one's good, it didn't have any absentees, this one, you had the absentees together and match.
This one must go with this one.
This is your election night report. And there were no changes from election night. So this is saying there was 229 ballots on election night. This ran on, well, it was 2 days after, but you had 223 and 6, so you got 229. That was,
It's just the tally book.
Have you signed anything yet?
I haven't signed anything yet. I think you will.
so you'll go,
They wouldn't let me.
you see sign,
I haven't either.
you see sign. Yep, one for. You need 2 abstracts per. One signed abstract for our records and one signed abstract to send to the control panel. And then there's 3 canvas sheets to sign. One for us.
Before they start signing. Let's do the formal part and then start signing.
Give these back to you. And Morgan's resolution is on the last page of the agenda packet.
Should I start signing these now or?
Let's prove a resolution.
The resolution,
And then
okay.
sign. A resolution is saying that there were 223 voters for Central Springs and there were 6 voters for North Butler. And then it has the breakdown of those votes. Central Springs should have yes 167, no 56.
Yep, okay.
I don't have the abstract. You want to look at the abstract? Is that what the abstract says for Central Springs? 167 yes and 56 no.
Yes. Total 223.
I would make a motion to approve resolution 0925, certification of Floyd County election results for the special election.
Second that motion.
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell to approve resolution 925, certification of Floyd County election results March 4th, 2025 in Central Springs Community School District and North Butler Community School District. Any other discussion? All in favor, Morgan, please call the roll.
Carr,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye. Motion passed, unanimous.
We can sign all the papers and. There's the meeting.
okay.
But neither of these does happen, huh?
No, Central Springs.
Oh, Central Springs did, but they're the ones that.
I don't.
You don't need this one.
Oh,
That's
okay.
this one. This is all.
Yes, well, from what you read off the abstract and what I did, so, yep, I think you're right.
That you were.
Abstract on that. They'll send. We have a hard copy, but they'll probably appreciate it if you can scan it. But not to yours. Sign it yourself, too.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
I almost signed the auditor's contract.
Hey, now. We're 3 months in, come on.
I know it.
We're not actually.
I think we're good for a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I think I was gonna make sure I write it down.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. We have to open up the other one again.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can make a motion that we open, come out of recess from the regular meeting.
Oh, was that a motion?
Yeah.
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell to reopen, fiscal year 26 budget review.
The regular meeting.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Okay.
I know it. This is always where the supervisor usually, when it's like a big election and you have all this winner's certificates signed that they say we should get paid for our signatures.
Draft signing session.
This is nothing for you. You go ahead with it. On budgets, Dennis, is that where you wanna go with this?
Yes.
Morgan emailed out all those reports, the fund balance, the expense report, and the by department, and the revenue report by department.
You do that this morning, Morgan?
No.
Last week.
Like last week sometime.
So we all had time, could have time to review it before today.
No, I looked at it, but I don't remember.
So probably what we can start with is the fund balance, if you've got that one.
Yeah, I gotta find it here. I haven't.
Was.
Friday, 3/7. I think it is, okay. Budget fund balance worksheet, expense totals by department and revenue totals by department.
That'd be the one.
That's the one, okay.
You send that to me?
Again,
March
I don't
7th.
think I did. I can tell. I gotta
March
find it.
7th.
Do you have it, Bob?
I don't think so.
I'll send it to him.
Every time I touch this thing, it goes nuts.
That's because it's a touch screen.
Haunted laptop.
Things, supervisors, capital, new. Question reports, budget balance worksheets. Got it. Well, we're doing. Are we looking at the, revenue total or the,
All three of them we'll take a peek at.
There should be 3 PDFs.
yeah, which one are we?
It's,
Start with fund balance, start with fund balance, yeah.
budget fund balance, revenue totals, and then expense totals.
Got 'em.
So where are we gonna look
I'll
at the
forward that to you, Mom.
budget fund?
Yeah, so if you see on the general fund is your first one there. Page 1.
Okay,
And so look across to where your percentage is underneath budget on the second half of the page. We've put a lot of numbers in that we can go through, but just want to see so you can see where we're at with the numbers that were plugged in. So this has a 30% carryover for the general fund, which we can't go less than 25%. So when we talk about things like we got $56,000 that's not in there, or whatever that number is to go to Cerro Gordo County, that's going to change those fund balances. So that one doesn't, and that's at our new levy rate that we're ratcheted down to. If you go to the second page, look at and I'm just pulling the ones out that are your levy ones. So general supplemental is on page 2, and you see that's got a 25.04% carryover balance. You see that one on page 2. And just right underneath that is rural services, and that's got a 25.18%. So like the wages that had the most impact on these budget was the sheriff's department, with that we put it down to 8%. And we did through in the rural services side, there's 4 deputies that are paid out of rural services, and putting that to 8%. And then there were some other things in there that we talked about reducing the road clearing from the 83,300. We ended up reducing that to 75,000 for this fiscal year and next fiscal year. And we've got this 25.18% carryover in doing that. We're trying to figure out why did that change so much. But one of the things was there was a health insurance plan in there that is no longer there, that took a chunk of that out of rural services, between with Jeff Sherman and Jesse Willinson, that we no longer have Jesse has health insurance through his spouse, so we don't have a health insurance plan. So we were trying to figure out why did this change so much. But when Jesse did the budget, we said keep everything the same for insurance, and Jeff Sherman's insurance was in there. So that was a change in the zoning side for that budget. That does allow us, we talked about reducing that road clearing to 70,000 instead of 75,000. So that's helped that one. The other ones that are your levy ones would be on other pages for the debt service, and those are what they are because those are the payments that are due. And so those are on page 6 and 7. Those are your debt ones. And the 40,000 is the number for debt service for the TIF revenue for those road bonds that we have, that we talked about, that do we want to pay those off? But the bond rate's 2%. And so we don't have any numbers in to pay this off. Probably a good decision of the board too, because we're earning more interest in that. If that changes, then we could always amend the budget to pay those off.
I don't think I would pay those off.
Yeah, right, I agree. And then the 40,001 on page 7, top of page 7, that's the debt for the 2 law enforcement center bonds and the bond for the communications tower.
The what?
Communications tower.
Oh.
So that expenditure increased slightly, but you can see from fiscal year 24 ended that it's gone up $600,000 because of the communications tower bond.
So not being shown in your current report, I found on Friday after this, I was reviewing my my giant wage spreadsheet. I adopted from Gloria's wage spreadsheet, and then I added what you guys had proposed for wages. In there, I had made an error where specifically it was in the treasurer's department when I was calculating their splits. I had double calculated one of the lower wages, so when I fixed it, it has dropped us in the supplemental to 24.94% because of that error. So we are now below that 25, barely below the 25, but we're below the 25, and that would be
Supplemental.
yeah, the supplemental fund has dropped.
But remember that supplemental levy has been increased. And we're asking for more tax dollars. And last week, when you looked at the notice that went in the paper for the proposed rate, and it showed a change of 12%, a significant part of that in the tax rate is that supplemental increase in taxes. So I think we still need a large part of what comes out of supplemental is FICA, IBER's insurance. And I still think we need to massage some of those wages. And so should we maybe just go through all those things that hit this that we didn't talk about? Boyd wasn't here last week. Or, right, wasn't meeting, but when we talked about this, Boyd left her.
I left early.
We were just done at 10 o'clock.
Okay, that's right. 2 weeks ago that you missed some of these because we didn't talk about budget stuff much last week, so.
Things that I added to the budget that was talked about when you weren't here that day, when you had to leave early, was the transfer for conservation from Department 22 conservation to 68, which is conservation reserve. That is $100,000 transfer. What was it?
106 or something like that.
Maybe it was 106 before, but we are not. The offset or the difference is, I believe, the cost of a new mower. Is what it was, which is just the change in that transfer then. Another thing that we talked about was that if Bernie were to take over the phone system at Public Health, that he would need an increase for that service that you'd be providing them. The amount the board asked me to put in would be a $2,000 increase for when that happens in his salary. General assistance will be no more, so we'll need to have somebody else host it. The county social services, we did not win the bid to have them in-house. I don't remember what facility they're going to now, county social services.
They're just done. They're done. They did an RFP for that disability access point, but they did general assistance for us.
Yes.
That grant that they tried to get that a job that will allow them to do continue working, but, that didn't happen, and, they asked for reconsideration and appeal to it, and they got their appeal back that was denied as well, so they are not getting that award, so they're done. So that's affected our general assistance. That affects us in a couple ways. One being the general assistance, that you put 5,000 in for general assistance. So we've got to figure out how we're going to cover general assistance. There was talk that possibly Renee mentioned that North Iowa Area Community Action Organization might be willing to take over general assistance. There's talk about maybe could we add it to someone else's job or department to do. And then those wages would come out of general assistance for that work that they do. So that needs to be figured out how we're going to cover that. And then the other side of the mental health part that we don't have in there is, as I mentioned earlier, when the state did mental health reform, they didn't include anything for a mental health advocate. Floyd County has a mental health advocate, but it was all paid through county social services. Since the state didn't address that, then the counties have to appoint a mental health advocate. So I have the name of the mental health advocate. Mary McConnell gave me the name of the person that's doing it, but she has no idea what we would budget. She did pass the email on to someone else. But we've got to figure that out. How it's going to end up being a wash, because we'll pay the mental health advocate, and then we have to file a report with the fiscal agent of record for mental health, which will now be Central Iowa got the bid for that fiscal part of this. And so we'd have to file that and then get reimbursed for that. So it'll be a net zero, but we still have to put it in our budget somewhere. And my thoughts were that we put that in Department 51, because it's just paying that advocate, and then so it's an expense code and a revenue code in Department 51 were my thoughts on that. But again, should be a net zero effect. We just have to put it in the budget. What else you got?
Department 33 library, they asked for a 3% increase. We put in the 3% increase, which increased them by like $2,900 for the year.
That goes to the 5 libraries. I think.
That would be between 5 and 9.
For dispatch, they asked for 1 part-time person with a max of 24 hours. That we added that to the budget so that it can be seen within here.
One part-time.
1 part-time, max of 24 hours was added to the budget. It doesn't mean that you guys approved it, it just means that it's in there for you to see how it impacts it, that's all.
We talked about, can we reduce overtime? Because he's adding that part-time, but I never,
Well, the 24 hours, they don't have any benefits, do they?
no. Anything 29 hours or less has just diapers.
Yep.
No health and FICA. Yeah, diapers, they get diapers and FICA,
Okay.
but no health.
Okay, because I put 5%.
They get normal payroll stuff like FICA.
I think
Was there 5 libraries?
I believe there's 5.
Yeah, Charles City, Marble Rock, Norris Springs, Rockford. Yeah.
That's kind of a new building. So,
Been for a couple of years now. After the tornado.
Yeah, but it just went up. Yeah, I don't know. How they pulled the funding and they can't pay for it.
What did it have to?
Well, state pulled the funding and,
Oh, the 27 cents.
yeah, so.
That 27-cent levy
So
in
that-
Rockford City that wasn't covering them very much,
Yeah,
but
Rugs Library, I mean, the city is loaning money to pay for, how they'll ever get it paid for.
It's open, they'll get to use it.
Oh, we've for months, not years, they just got it done,
Nice looking building, I've been by it a few times.
that's kind of where my thoughts are. If that is one funding agency we could continue to fund, I think that's a good one because of that.
I have
But they
a
use their
partiality
27
in libraries.
I think we gave them a 1% increase this fiscal year. But they don't get increases very often. But that is funded out of rural services, not general fund, because the cities already have their tax levies.
Out of the budget request, Healthy Harvest that hadn't previously been funded by the county, I put in the $1,500 they requested for the board that was here.
And that's out of general fund. And so if we're tweaking wages or things and we've got this 56,000 to pay Cerro Gordo County, that's one I think that probably could be reduced or eliminated.
We haven't paid that before, right?
We haven't for years.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that, the way this is looking with the 56,000 and all the, you're talking about massaging wages, maybe a little bit.
Rub it off.
That may be fine. I just don't see how this is working out unless I'm missing something. Go ahead.
I confirmed the North Spring and Green ambulance contributions and made sure that the budget reflected those properly. I don't have the number wrote down.
And we just got North Springs, like the week before, a week or two
Was it
before.
North Springs or that was at the
Or sorry, Green.
just
Yeah,
yeah. So I made sure to reflect that in the budget for this year.
actually, I think it was a little bit less than
Yeah.
the current year.
Because they based that on how many runs they did this last year. And then that's how we budget for what we're paying them next year. So essentially we're just kind of a little behind, like we pay for the previous year's number of trips.
So the claim you just paid was for what he gave us a year ago.
Okay.
Reduced road clearing, which Gloria mentioned that when we reduced the road clearing, we were able to only reduce it to $75,000 instead of $70,050. So there is still some road clearing that we didn't have to reduce near as far as we thought we would when trying to get the rural services to that 25% carryover. We went through and looked at all the opioid requests and whatnot to make sure that the budget can handle that without having to, even though the money's there, the budget still has to reflect what you want to use it for. So we did a reestimate for this year's after the requests we've had, and then made sure to have a good chunk of expenses budgeted for next year. Like I said, the money is there, it just needs to be reflected in the budget. The IT budget, I have not heard anything back from Bernie about exactly what cost need to be put in for the phone system. So I need Bernie to follow up with that. And then lastly, the ADC requested $85,000, which is up from $47,100.
That is what?
Almost double.
No, it's not almost doubled. It's about a third higher because 17,500 is paid out of TIF dollars. So it's our 47.1 plus TIFs. The city through a 28E or through a development agreement that we have, TIF pays 17,500, I think. So it's the request is actually 64,000 600 or something like that. But general fund pays, what TIF doesn't pay, so.
So
it's-
Tim asked for 85,000 on that.
He asked for 85,000, and this is what I talked about before, that when I came back from Des Moines a week or so ago, that we had a conference call with John Danos, and we've got some work to do to figure out, because we can't pay all of that, there's gotta be some accountability on TIF's side, or Tim's side, to how much work are you actually doing in Southwest Bypass TIF that the county pays for compared to what the city pays for. Our 17,000 or 16,000, 17,100 or whatever it is that we pay is more than what the city of Charles City pays for Southwest Bypass TIF. And we don't have, because of the wind turbine going in, we don't have as much area for Tim to work with, because that eliminates, you can't build in so much proximity of the tower. And so that's where we've got to figure some of that out. I have a meeting tomorrow, or this afternoon, with Tim on the asset management committee is meeting, and so I'm going to talk to Tim about that as well. But I do know that what Tim went to the city of Charles City with, because their development agreement is up also, and they have told Tim we can't fund you all of that. So I don't expect us to fund the 85,000. I expect TIF could probably still fund the 17,100, but that 46,100 or whatever is in our general fund Department 51 budget. What was that, 46?
We put in 48,100, which is a $1,000 increase from last year per other requests or other discussions that were talked about before he requested the 85 total.
I don't know if I want to give them any more than that. I think there's still accountability to how much is the city's covering them for stuff. We're covering them for Southwest Bypass. How much is he doing in the other areas of the county? Because that's what we're supporting Tim for, is
So instead of
everything
the,
else.
instead of the 85,000,
I put in 48,100, which is a $1,000 increase from last year's contribution towards that.
48,100.
So if you take that 48,100 plus the 17,100, that's the number that TIF is funded through Floyd County. It's just two different vehicles.
48 plus 17,000.
17,100. 18,000. We've got 18,000.
48,100 is what the county's budget has in it.
Okay.
I don't know what TIF has
And in that. In the agency thing, did you update that agency spreadsheet?
at one point, yeah.
Over at 85,000, how much was the city going to give him if we give?
So it's nothing to do with the cities.
I know,
The city
but-
has their
Part of
own.
that 85,000 would be paid for with Southwest Bypass TIF, but that's where Gloria's talking about, they're talking about dissolving it, so then how much, if anything, can the TIF pay towards that?
And John Danos' conversation with that was, the city could still cover that, some payment. We'd have to have a 2080 agreement or something with the city to cover that, but we have to, that Southwest TIF covers clear out to the ethanol plant when they did the water line out there, so we have to, I don't know if decommission is the right word, but we have to change our plan. Our urban renewal area has to be amended if we come out of Southwest Bypass. So don't have an answer to that. Not sure how quick. Steve and I gotta look at some maps. We gotta look at what the funding has been, revenues, if there's been revenues from the county's portion of the TIF. So there's some homework that Steve will have to do on that one to figure some of that out. But I find it isn't in that spreadsheet.
Where is this one?
That finance budgets. Budget planning. Let's see, request.
Do you need your charger?
What's that?
Do you need your charger?
Mine too, mine fell down.
$18,500 being paid for by Southwest Bypass and $65,600 being paid for by the county. $65,600 being paid total, with $18,500 being paid by Southwest Bypass.
So he's basically asking for 20,000 more. But Southwest TIF can't pick up more because he's not doing that much more work. Tim said you've got to have it proportionate to the work that he's doing.
Well, can he get by with 65,000? I mean, he's gonna have to, right? We can't.
You mean bumping our general fund up to 65?
Well, no, the total that Tim is getting between us, 48,100 and 17,000 from the TIF, right, is 65,000.
TIF is the smaller number.
Yep.
Yep, the county is the 4,600.
40, I got 48,100, but
4,800, what you put in the budget. Yep. So that gives him a couple of $1,000s more.
I think we need to stick with that number.
So again, I'm meeting with Tim today after we have our asset management. So I can talk with him more on bringing that down.
85 is kind of strong.
Oh, yeah, I ruled that out from day one, you know.
Absolutely. Well, again, I'd like to see some tracking. I've been going to lots of asset development or asset management meetings. And I'm hearing lots about Charles City. And that's what I hear a lot of people say, that it's always about Charles City. And so I want to get a record of what is Tim doing for the rest of the county. And to me,
I think that's fair.
and when I brought that up to John Danos, he said that seems very appropriate.
Yeah.
Is he spending that 46,000 in his time and trying to grow economic development outside of Charles City? Because that's what we're paying for.
Yeah. Just trying to balance all these numbers.
Okay, what's next on your list, Morgan?
That's it.
Is that it? What about the VA?
It's been in there. We got that extra
You got
5,000.
that
You said you had 5,000, not 5,000. Or you said to put them up to 55,000,
50,000.
50,000.
50,000 even.
So that's $4,500. So you,
And when the last meeting I went, would have been last month. Todd and, not Todd, it was Todd, right? Yeah. And one of the board members said that they would look for $5,000 worth of savings in their budget just to afford that. And we'll probably have a meeting next week sometime, and I'll tell them they don't have to worry about that.
I mean, if they can, that's great.
Yeah, but no other departments have made that offer either. Look for any efficiencies.
But that's all the other things that we need to talk about is the wages in all those other departments. We've got, I think we're going to get a lot of backlash from secondary roads because we have all these other increases that we've been asked for above 2.75. Some of have provide comparables. That's what Gail, when she asked me to come over to meet with her last week, I went over to meet with her. She plans on increasing her home care aides. Her Board of Health meeting is next Monday. And she showed me a spreadsheet of all the surrounding counties, and I think maybe it has population comparables in there as well. And our home care aides are the lowest paid in the area. They're I think she wants to get them to, I think they're 17 or maybe just into $18 an hour. And I think she wants to get them up to, I don't remember what she had in her spreadsheet, but she's provided that. That's not in here, but she did send that to Morgan and I.
I've seen that, and I think that's a benefit. I mean, by trying to keep everybody in their homes and that, you know. I'm kind of sensitive to that, but you're right. I mean, some of these increases that were asked for, I just, misogyny is the right word, but
Probably not.
yeah, but
Well,
we got to get a little more.
yeah, the compensation board come up with most of those recommendations. Not all of them, most of them.
The biggest hit one with the sheriff.
Yeah.
And but
So and we met real early with the Teamsters. I think they were probably the first group we met with, and we told them it was going to be 2 3/4%, and they rejected it, and they come back, and we told them it's going to be 2 3/4%.
yeah.
We give them a few more days off, some hours that they can earn during the year. I forget what that's called. Well, yeah, I think we give them 5 more hours, maybe.
For what is that?
Well, they can earn hours. Is it called comp time? No.
They have holiday, you mean like the holiday pay and
Oh, I can't remember that.
not the sheriff's deputies you're talking. Oh,
No,
longevity?
no, we're talking about secondary roads,
Oh, secondary.
Teamsters.
Yeah, they're good.
I think,
We have
yeah,
a
I don't
2.75
gave
on that.
them anything other than
No, we didn't
two
give them
point
anything.
seven five, I think. They wanted to go up to 80 hours or something
Yeah, I thought
like
we
that.
They wanted to do the work 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week in the
Yeah.
summer, but we didn't
We
didn't
didn't
do
go,
that.
we didn't go with that.
because we didn't think that was fair to Adam. Adam
Right.
hadn't even started yet. And that was fair to him to throw that in there.
You know, on the sheriff's thing, I mean, those increases are huge on that, and then along with the longevity
And the steps,
part.
the step increase for some of those
Yeah,
guys.
I just don't see how this is gonna work that way, The county wasn't to just lay a bunch off, check us off, I mean, I don't wanna do that.
I don't know what department it was, or if it was
What's that?
more than one department.
They laid off or
And I'm gonna be honest with you, one of the things that concerns me is listening to that webinar last week from Isaac and what the bill is for property tax reform. And the message that you get is this could be a tough transition over 4 years. And, I believe Brandy reported at one of our meetings that, or maybe it's just a conversation her and I had, that she's not expecting a lot in valuation growth. If we don't have the valuation growth, we're not going to have money for next year. So when I first looked at this and seeing the fund balance is 30%, I'm like, no, maybe that's okay for a 30% carryover, because we don't know what this whole property tax reform is. So that's what concerns me more than anything. And I took some notes, and basically what they're doing is, what goes away is this ratcheting down that we're doing now with valuations and with tax dollars limits. That ends up going away, but they're doing away with all of these credits and exemptions. And basically your property taxes are your taxable rate, your taxable value, and your assessed value are basically going to be 100%. You have your assessed value, and right now we have all these rollbacks with, residential being 45% or whatever it is, and commercial and industrial being 90%. And, the first 150,000 at 45% roughly, that's all gonna go away, except for the changing of the homestead credit to a homestead exemption. That's basically the only difference we're gonna see from the 100% assessed value to the taxable value. And that's a transition over the years. And it's my understanding is it's going to the Ways and Means to see how is this going to affect local government and how do they do this? I mean, Iowa has such a, part of me is, we have such a convoluted tax system that I like the simplicity of having that your values are at 100%. But then, of course, that means, if we were taxed, you got a $200,000 home and your rollback is taxable, say $100,000. Now we're going to be taxing on a $200,000 home basically through this transition period. But so our tax rates are going to go down tremendously. Because we don't want to, we shouldn't need to tax. I mean, the rollbacks are going to have a huge impact on that. And so if you get a chance to watch the video from ISAC, and I can send it to you to make it at the top of your emails if that would help, so you can plug that in sometime. Just listen to that part of it because it's really interesting. And the nervous part of it is, how do we transition through this and get by for the next 4 years? We should learn more about it at the conference this week also, I would presume. But I'm not saying that the property tax reform is bad, because we are so
It's
convoluted
good for
now.
the taxpayers, but it's hard for the governments to operate.
It is.
That's two sides of this.
And I don't know if you
You
guys got phone calls, but, well, there were 2 messages on the phone in our office from a same lady, but she didn't say a name. She was from Rockford, and she wanted to know when she read the article in the paper. And she said, we're coming to your meeting on your hearing on the 24th, and expect a mob of people because they're not happy with seeing that 12% change in our notice that was published for our property taxes. So I think we do have some responsibility to pull that supplemental levy down from what we have. And we talked about that. We're at our high spot. We could come down now. And I think that's our responsibility. We're going to have, and again, most of that is wages FICA, IPERS, and insurance.
Yeah, and how are we controlling that other than wages?
FICA, IPERS, and insurance, I mean, not insurance, but FICA and IPERS especially is all dependent on your wages.
What's your wages?
It's a percentage of
I mean,
your wages.
Exactly.
It all starts
It's straight
back
up
at-
just a percentage of your wages, so
it all
whatever you
starts
decide
back at
there.
wages.
Yep.
And so,
Yeah.
Well, county needs to figure out how to spend less money, and we can't do it with wages. Right? I mean,
well, we might have to, right?
well,
When you
Not an
got
increase.
some of those percentage of increases that you have with, I don't mean to sound like I'm picking on the sheriff's department, but I'm gonna say the increases for jailers, the increases for the secretarial staff. You've got some pretty high wages there that you talked to Jeff about.
yep, I know, and that's what they are, isn't what they wanted either.
Yeah,
They wanted a lot more.
I know,
And
but maybe that was,
so,
I mean, our hands are tied, really. It's wages right now. And then we lay somebody off.
Yeah, I don't want us to be in that spot that Chickasaw County is in. I mean, 4 people so far. And what I was told by the supervisor there is that's a start.
Really.
Scott told me that too, yeah.
Well,
I don't want to go down that road, but
And I just think it's not
I don't
fair
want to pick
what
on the
we
sheriff either, but it's too high. Even when I suggested we go to 8%, right? I mean, it's too high. And some of these others, it's not gonna be all fair, like 2.75% for every single department. I mean, I think some of these, like this health, or that's a good needed service to keep these people in their homes and.
I found that, and it's a 5.5% increase, but it's taking one of them that's $16.71 $16.71 to 1763. Or 17.63,
But she's going to absorb some of those costs by not having a part-time, one of her part-time people, correct?
Yeah, she's had one as needed employee that she hasn't used. And so she's taken that out of the budget.
Yeah, so there's some absorption. So just
Oh.
because she's requesting a 5.5 increase for those home health care aides,
Yep.
it's not like it's an addition to the budget that entirety, because she's gonna go away with her budget line that she has a part-time person that she hasn't really used, like her backup person. So
Okay.
you're not like, it's not adding to her budget as much as 5.5% of those wages. Like
Right.
it's
Well, that's
a part
good
of
to know.
that.
And
She's absorbing some.
And the highest paid person is going from $17.67 to $18.64 an hour. And that barely gets them into, when we were looking at her schedule, that barely, her comparisons, it didn't even get them up to the middle part of comparables with other averages from other counties.
Getting back to the sheriff's department and the jailers, and I think I mentioned this before. Jeff told me that if the jailers that they have hired now get the raises that they asked for, they won't have to hire another full-time jailer.
Currently in the budget is that additional full-time.
It is additional in there.
Yeah, it's already,
That was what he presented,
he wants
have a
9.
full-time person and the 20s.
Well,
$7 and
why
$29.
can't we take that out? He said he didn't mean it if he got, so we're not gonna give the raises to the existing jailers then?
Oh, I don't think that's what I was saying. I was just letting you know that the additional person is currently in there.
The additional person and reduced it to
25, it looks like we reduced in the planning process, it's been reduced to 25 for jailers and 27 for jailer admin. Is what the spreadsheet says.
Well,
Sorry.
I think Jeff made the point with me that he'd rather not have to hire a full-time jailer and give the jailers that are on already there the raise that he asked.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, then I'm not saying it makes any sense, Gloria. I'm telling you, that's what he told me. Okay?
Yeah, but, again, if you wouldn't hire one, I mean, is he saying that the people that, if they get their raises, then they're gonna be content and work more, or, I don't understand.
Yeah, he didn't go into details about overtime or comp pay or.
None of this is gonna be fair. Some people are gonna be upset because they got more or whatever, but some have been lagging, but, in wages,
Did he, so he added the full-time jailer, an additional full-time jailer in the budget. Did he reduce overtime? So that's my background from industry was if you justified your full-time, your hiring people based on how much are you spending on overtime was a huge factor in how you decide, do you add another person or not? So is he reducing overtime?
We didn't go into detail. He just made that comment at the end of our discussion. He says, I don't hire, if my jailers get the raise I'm asking for, I won't have to hire another full-time jailer. That was the extent. He didn't go into detail on how he was gonna do it, support it.
so the wages that he's asking on his current jailers, is that amount what a full-time guy would be?
Well, I think I left that spreadsheet at home this morning.
I don't know.
But it was, I think it was a $2 an hour raise for the jailers.
Went from 22 to
I
20.
think you wanted
It
22
was
to
27.
27. Isn't that right?
So currently, based on the discussions that you guys had and what you told me to move forward with, they are currently at 22 and it's currently in the budget for 25. Regular
That's what we
jailers.
But
wanted.
he asked for
25.
27
Or
and
you
then
set him on
29
25.
for the lead. $2 more for the lead jailer too. Which I'm not saying that's bad either. That she gets $2 an hour more, well, she's got a lot of responsibility as a lead jailer.
Yeah.
I think that's worth $2 an hour.
What did we have, when we agreed to pay Vanessa and Melissa in the office? They asked for 29, from 22 to $29.
They are currently at 2360 and based on the discussions and whatnot that was asked to be put into the budget, I put in 26. They did ask for 29.
They're 2360.
They're currently 2360. If they had the 2.75 raise, that gets them to 2425.
He's asking for, well,
He asked
That's
for
for
29.
and what did I leave with?
26.
26.
And did he give you comparables on them?
Well, I did, from Baldwin County, and their jailers,
And the assistants?
their system was a little different. Their jailers earn anywhere from $25 to $30 an hour. But they also do sometimes people that work in the office perform jailer duties. Like Vanessa and Melissa, if they wanted to be $29 an hour, they'd have to be jailers too. That's what, Baldwin County did it both ways. I got a spreadsheet from Scott at Chickasaw County. I'd have to find that. I can do that. I asked for Mitchell County and they didn't get back to me. So,
Well, I just think we're gonna run into a can of worms if we only give secondary roads 275 and some of these others are,
yeah, maybe secondary roads came to us too quick, probably.
well, or maybe that was just what we should do.
Yeah.
What if we just give her away 3% and call it good? I don't know any other way.
I would say 2.75.
I mean, it's kind of coming down to that.
That's fine. I have my charger, I just told you. I just, you've already did the negotiation part with secondary roads. And I don't know what, that has to be done by a date. Thank you. I just think you do the 275. There's elected officials. I mean, I would say, the only one I would track that to would be the sheriff, because I think that I don't want us to get in any trouble with back to blue and not doing more for the sheriff if those wages are anywhere close to where, we know they didn't do their compensation board didn't do the comparables like they should have on the sheriff. But I would say the sheriff probably should get more, whether it's, we've got it at 8%, whether it's 7% or something. I just think unless we do the comparables ourselves, to come up with something, I don't want to, back to blue is there for a reason.
What Jeff told me about the back to blue, we talked about his salary, and he says, I don't really care about mine as, he's supposed to be up to speed with police chiefs in a city with the same population as Floyd County, Newton, Grinnell. And he says, I don't really care about that. He says, but I want my people taken care of. I
And
can't do that. I mean, we can't really do that.
But is he saying that the negotiations that they have bargained for are,
I told you what he said. I don't know what he meant, but I told you. He said he wanted his people taken care of. He says, I don't care so much about back to blue and my salary. He says, in other words, I think he was telling me he doesn't care if it takes 5 or 6 years for him to get up to that average of cities, you know how that works.
But that brings his deputies along with him, right? Because they got, what, 75 or 80% of their salary.
80%.
they're
Is that
based
right?
on his salary, yeah.
So,
75% of his salary.
okay, again, Morgan, if we do the spreadsheet and we give them 5%, let's see. Is that, so the back to blue, I mean, I guess I don't understand. I mean,
Well, that was an Iowa law that was passed. It's law.
and how soon does that happen?
Was it last year or this current year is the first that,
I think this is the second year.
I did, fiscal year 26
So
was the
you got
third
so
year.
many
you're
years
saying?
to bring him up to that?
Yeah, the law says they don't
No.
expect it to be done overnight. And Jeff understood that too. I thought I read somewhere it was 5 or 6 years that we could get. If a sheriff wasn't comparable to a city police chief, like in Newton or Grinnell or a town with a population of 15,000 people, that it would take, they don't have to do it overnight, but would expect it to be done in 5 years, I believe, something like that.
I don't recall that. I do know that it's back to blue isn't the only factor. They still have the other comparables to check to also with in-state, out-of-state, public sector, private sector. But the back to blue weighs heavily on their comparables. But I don't know about 5 years. Maybe there's an administrative rule for that.
Well, maybe that's something I thought, or thought I read and didn't, but I thought that when I read the law, I didn't think it said it had to be done overnight to make them comparable, that they had years to get to that level. So,
But that's one major factor in doing their comparables. It's not that in itself. It's the other comparables in chapter 331-904, I believe it is also, that they're compared to, or 903, 331-903, that they compare to. That's why it's pretty heavy. So maybe it's sense to come.
2.75%.
What's that?
If we just, carte blanche, 2.75%. And the difference between that and what they're asking for is how much money, I mean, make it work or lay somebody off. I don't see any other way.
I don't think there's a point of laying off.
Well, but if we give 8%,
Yeah.
how do you justify the rest of the people, in a way? I mean, I just.
If we had comparables that didn't have all the other baggage stuff on them, like the office staff help the jailers, or the jailers also do dispatch. If we just did jailers that don't do dispatch and office people that don't do jailer stuff or whatever, that'd be nice comparables to see. For those two positions anyway. But I am going towards, for elected officials, other than the sheriff, that we're 2.7, we do the 2.75%.
yeah, what makes this tough is the compensation board makes those recommendations.
I know.
They share it with everybody,
But then I can sit here and can make those hard decisions.
Yeah, I know,
I mean, it's easy to say what this should be,
yeah.
you know, and, well, let's see what would that look like, you know, I mean,
Have to plug new numbers in that
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
definitely we got it.
I
Cause
think
this next 4 years, I mean, there's gonna be tremendous cuts, and we're already seeing that. And quite honestly, farm income, I think, is gonna be down. You know, we have tariffs to deal with, and we got some problems. So I wanna keep, you know,
I've heard, and I know you folks, Gloria, and boy, you have on that article in the paper, about the levies going up. I blame you, Ben. No. Not
it was
really.
a good one, though.
But I've gotten some pushback, you know, and I certainly understand, they don't like their taxes to go up for any reason, actually, unless they have some say in it, you know, with a bond or a levy, but we need to not do that or not do it at a 12% level or something. We need to try to do something, I think. Do you agree?
Yeah.
What we're proposing is increasing our general services tax dollars by, it's $50,000. So that's not a significant, on the general services side only, not the rural services. Wait a minute, I gotta look. I'm sorry. $6.7 million to about $6.5 million. So we're a couple $100,000 difference. The difference in that is you throw in the debt, that's only $12,000. And so that's where I think we should somewhere try to figure out. I don't know that we can do all the $200,000 out of general services. Especially when we know we're gonna put 50, 60,000 in there, just this alone. But I still think we need to make that effort, and I don't think I want people to be paid a fair wage, but some of it just seems willy-nilly how we're determining if what they're proposing is a fair wage.
Yeah, I would agree with, what do you base it on? With, you know, other counties or whatever, and,
I think in some cases, what they asked for, when they asked for it, I think they understood you probably wouldn't get that much. But, it's,
we gotta make it fit.
And we also have the assessor's budget for Caitlin where I think did that pass at 2.75% increase, or did it go to the 24 for Caitlin? But with Randy having the option to go up to that $24 for Caitlin. But she does have more than
a few years ago, we talked about this, Gloria. Gail at Public Health give her employees raises at
mid-year.
mid-year, yeah, that we didn't calculate for, and she had the money to do it, you know.
No, we made her reduce her budget to do that. That's a couple times. There's been a little rogue on those boards to do that. And that's the thing, you could just say the same things happened with conservation before, at budget time, where they wanted to do some, Adam had some pretty significant increases. He had some comparables though. They're pretty significant increases, and Gail wanted to do a 5% increase when the board ended up with a 1.5% increase. And, but they're an autonomous board, so they can do what they want. But the only thing the board had control over was the bottom line budget. Not on that one time though, that was just new budget dollars. But the only thing the board can do during this budget time is say, we only think you should go this high with your bottom line budget, with your weight this, so we calculated that difference for what that higher increase, you know, the 5% to the 1.5%, what that difference was in the budget, and they had to cut their budgets. the bottom line budgets. And I think this intent of the supervisors was they would cut it on the wages, but then get the same increase as most of the other county employees. But they choose to cut it in other line items in the budget, which sends a message, my opinion, sends a message that, have you padded your budget then, that you can just cut this, one of them was $19,000, you just cut $19,000 out of the rest of the line items in your budget? Then did you pad your budget? That's the message that it sends.
You know, that's a good point. These department budgets, of course, the VA probably has the smallest budget of any
Pretty
of them,
much,
department wise. Rural service or secondary roads probably has the largest. And it's hard for me to understand that they can't find some efficiencies in a $6 or $7 million budget. And of course, I don't know that I could find them, but it's just hard for me to believe that they can't find some efficiencies in that budget somewhere. And if you talk about $100,000, $100,000 out of a $6 million budget, that's not a lot of money.
You're saying, when you're using those numbers, you're saying property tax dollars that you want them to cut it? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Or other, because it's, we have, 6 million is secondary roads budget.
yeah, the way, their cost of doing business, to operate secondary roads or whatever you want to call it. And are they doing everything in a very efficient way, I guess is another way to put it. And maybe they are. But, so, and I don't mean to be, I'm not picking on them, but the reason I bring it up is because they have the largest budget.
Yeah.
And then the sheriff's department is probably next.
Well, we always ask them, and Morgan has asked them to review their budgets and, look at their history of, are they underestimating revenues? Are they overestimating expenses? She's done that. Did anybody come back with anything much?
I have not went back through all of those emails yet. When I briefly looked through them, I didn't see anything significant, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't something, because I haven't gotten to go into a deep dive of what the responses were.
Probably nothing too significant, I guess. But so I think with directions, we need to give Morgan some directions for our next meeting and what we're gonna do. And I think we need to put this 50,000 as an expense in whatever this number is. I think just to cover ourselves, we need to put that as an expense in fiscal year 25, re-estimated. Add that in Department 6.
Department 6 would be
Clerk of court,
clerk of court.
just to have a place card.
Yeah.
I truly believe that's where that's coming from. That revenue's been going
Yeah.
to.
It's almost $58,000.
Yeah, and that's only going through October. I don't know if December hasn't been, because if they're doing it quarterly, December isn't on here, and March is, this next quarter is coming up here too. But that's where Todd needs to come up with that number for his $14,500 budget. What's that number to spend? But you're gonna increase revenues in his 14,500. And you're gonna increase expenses and revenues for whatever Todd comes up for his 14,500 fund. But you're gonna put that.
Well, we gotta have Todd come up with that. If you haven't heard back from a lot of other departments, and I think you probably got a good idea of elected officials 2.75, like what we gave the roads, and see how that shakes out.
I do think,
Because otherwise, I have no idea how to you know, I gotta see the numbers.
But you're saying elected officials, what about some of those others?
Well,
You want to,
But like Todd Shriver, we're giving him more than a 2 3/4% raise.
I think I had looked at ISAC's comparables, and that's not out of line for that.
Okay, well, I didn't think so, but I mean, there may be some exceptions.
Yeah, that's what I think we need to give more
well,
direction.
give me a way to defend them.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, comparable.
yeah, variables and stuff.
And if you've got some numbers on jailers, I know they kind of got other baggage stuff with them, but if the 22, we've got 25 in there, is it 24? I don't know.
I wish I got my notes from my call to Butler County. I talked to their county auditor and he said it's really different. They get anywhere, their jailers can make anywhere from $24 to $30 an hour.
Our jailers making 22.
22 right now.
Too. I don't think I have that.
But he is getting an extra jailer in his budget.
It's on my desk.
Somehow we got. That's 25, 27, right? We're at 25 now.
25 for jailers, 27 for jailer admin.
The
Jailer admin, like the lead jailer.
Dispatchers took what?
dispatchers are at a 2.75% increase, but the Board of Supervisors for this current year jumped them up to 2704 now, 2704, I believe, so 2.75 on top of that. So I think dispatchers, 2.75, that's it. But I do think John should get a part-time jailer or dispatcher. He's got so much overtime in there, that should help his overtime budget, that people are getting $27 an hour times 1.5, that part-time person.
Is John getting the overtime himself or
Oh.
the dispatchers?
He's a salary, so does not get the overtime.
Oh, he's on salary.
I think his pay is like $5,000 more than the others, something like that. I think dispatch is fine with 2.75, in my opinion. But I do think the secretarial staff, the sheriff's office is too high to go to 27 or whatever it ended up at, 26 for, did you change anything with Vanessa and Melissa?
They are to 26.
Yeah, 26 is too high for that.
What did Scott tell you what did they do 3 or 4% in Chickasaw County for raises, did he say?
I don't know.
He mentioned something to me about that, and I don't remember. It doesn't seem like it was 2 3/4%, but it might have been 3. Yeah, my notes are at home.
A more interesting conversation with Scott was, he made a comment about if AMR would do the transports, that Chickasaw County ambulance ends up doing throughout like 60% of the transports from the hospital are from Chickasaw County is doing. Instead of AMR.
Worked a 2.75 into the. Like
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Everybody, just see where this is at, and then we'll have something to go on. You know, I mean, it's a jumping off.
There is a category here that
And we
has
may,
to.
and you're right, we may have to massage somebody.
So then it's just, if you've got.
No, I agree
that
with
in
you.
those
We gotta
bottom
do
ones, just
something.
the total, what's the difference? with your new wages versus the 2.5.
And the school forward scares me, you know, another year or
It's just,
two. So,
You know, today.
this little, like, this is twice as high.
Yeah, this is 2.75
Have we-
count.
So from here to here,
Do you have
it was
any
that.
suggestions?
Now
Mark?
it's this is where we're at. Your new version,
stick
and raises.
then what's the difference in general fund and supplemental and.
Yeah, I got a brain in it for you too.
what exit do we get off there to get to the? How far away is our hotel from this?
It's across the river.
Across the river from here, from the,
Yes, but it's not far. It's like 0.7 miles. But it is across the river, but it's a pretty clean shot.
7 to 9.
Okay, so Morgan has on her spreadsheet here, we can see the difference in general fund. The difference in wages with what is in the budget currently. The general fund is from 0% to what Morgan has in the budget is minus the treasurer's corrections.
This,
Yep.
this includes treasurer's corrections, because
Yep.
I fixed it on this sheet and then fixed it in budget.
Yep, the increase is 100, general fund, the increase is 123,628. If we put the 275, it's 109,231.30.
About $18,000.
And that's just for wages. That's,
That's just the wages. So
give me that again, it was in the,
123,628.9, 123,629 for general. With all the increases where they're at,
that they're asking for.
yes. And 275 is 109,231.
What was that first number again, Gloria? I'm sorry.
123,629.
12369
629.
629.
123,629.
So that's just $12,000.
And supplemental,
That didn't seem hardly possible.
in supplemental, the difference is at full wages, 30,436.63, or say 30,437. And 24,105. So you got. Right,
$6,000.
$6,000.
in rural services, you've got 18,830, excuse me. I'll do I've been giving you the full wages. I'll give you that number first. 35,491. And on the other side is 18,831.69. So 18,832. That's because you got one of those, that, basic, that's law enforcement for deputies
In the rural fund,
in rural.
because there's 4.
But one of those is at a high step increase.
That's about a $15,000 difference.
Yeah, but one of those is basically one deputy. Hang on, it's popping up here. One deputy is getting, at the high rate, is his just wages alone is $11,335. 2 of them are over $6,900, and one of them's at almost $4,500. So his 11,335 compared to with a 2.75 is 6,872.
So this is comparing 2 3/4% times what they're asking. Right?
Yep.
the smaller number is the 2 3/4%, the bigger number is what everyone has asked and what is put in the budget.
So the difference is gonna be about Right.
Significant differences.
Well,
Five-year
it's less
total
than
increase.
$40,000 though, right? My math is right?
What's that?
The total difference between what they're asking and what would be a two, three quarters is 40 grand difference.
Right, it was 30, at 15 and 12 and 6, it would be saving. Right, 27, 6, 3,000.
As much as I thought it would be.
No,
$7.5% isn't in itself a big increase.
no,
But it's just jumping to that next part, what's fair wages? That's what it ought to be come down to, is what's fair wages.
it's what?
Fair wages.
Yeah,
But yeah, that doesn't get us to our 200,000 to bring supplemental down by any means. Or to bring that levy rate down.
You guys getting about 37,000, shy 37,400 for the difference?
Oh, what'd you come up with?
37,388.
You're talking, you added all three of those categories.
Yeah, that's all three of the categories together of what the difference would be.
On the wages.
But I threw all three pots together, which in every other sense you don't throw them together, so.
Right. And that's, that three bottom numbers that you added up.
I got 39,425 difference. For general fund going from 123,629 down to 109,231.
Okay.
Supplemental 34,37 down to 24,105. Rural services 35,491 down to 18,82.
For supplemental, $30,436. At 34,000,
No, I'm 30437 is where I am.
okay, and then down to 24,105,
Yeah,
and then 35,491 down to 18,831.
18,832, but yeah.
Or yeah, 32. Yep.
So those differences total up to be what?
30.
Just making sure I'm good on it. Yeah, I get 30. Click the buttons. 37,388. I don't know why my number is different than yours, Bob.
Well, I was doing it on the computer with 37,388, make sure I had the right numbers.
So this one is 109 minus.
I've already located $2,000. I must have hit a wrong.
Okay.
We're going the right direction.
Divisible by 3, it's.
It doesn't seem as much as I thought it would be. You know, we're gonna get to the 200,000 and their budget, it's just hard to know. I mean, when they submit the budgets, how am I supposed to know? You know,
I don't know. Yeah, you got a $18 million budget you're looking at.
yeah,
We're at 37,389 now.
7,389. That's probably just rounding.
Yeah.
Okay. Because mine, yeah, is 37,388.02.
I didn't include cents. And that's the difference between having everyone at 2 3/4% and what they're asking.
And what, not even what they're asking, because we've already taken what they're asking and some of them have
Down,
reduced.
okay.
So what is currently being proposed in that proposed levy rate?
Yep.
What's in that number essentially is what you're comparing. What wages have already been put in to determine that max property.
So we have to raise a levy for $38,000.
It's everything else in the budget too.
Yeah.
But you hate to back a budget, you put wages on the back of a budget to balance a budget. Obviously, you can't even do it.
yeah. But we also have to keep it within what we've done already too,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And even though this isn't gonna balance it, I do think we gotta even some things out. But we gotta find
It's,
something somewhere, and I have no idea.
and you look at, we keep talking of that supplemental fund that we've got, FICA, IPERS, and health insurance.
Yeah.
But a big hit on that is just the insurance, the general liability and work comp and vehicles. We put a 13% increase in the
How much?
budget. Actually a 13% increase from what we paid this year, and a 13% increase for what we're gonna pay in June next year.
Yeah, that
So
insurance.
basically, you had 26% on insurance that you've increased.
Yeah. We don't have any control.
And look at ambulance services. We bumped that up for AMRs, per contract with AMR is going
How
up.
much did that go up?
That went up to. Yeah, that's pretty cheap.
That's fine. Yeah. Agency budget request.
Yeah.
It was in fiscal year 24, it was $200,000. In fiscal year 25, it was 213,725, and the request for this year is 220,137. So in 2 years, it has gone up over $20,000.
They're out of our control.
Yeah, so their proposal is 220.
We have a 3-year contract that it goes up 3% every year.
Okay.
This is the fiscal year 26 is the last year of that contract. So the ambulance commission will be hopefully starting negotiations here soon to figure out what we're gonna do beyond fiscal year 26. If they don't expect it to.
I don't know, it's
Well, the city's got the same amount. They got it.
Yeah.
I'll be frowning again.
Wasn't more than 3% increase is the numbers you use.
I think it's 3%. We don't get the contract.
That's what my notes said is, it started at, the contract year 1 starts at 207,500 plus a 3% for year 2 and year 3.
Yeah, I thought you said 200,000 the first year.
That's what's wrote in the budgeted number, which might not have been updated to what was the actual, to be sure why it.
And currently we're getting a $50,000 kickback from the hospital. That ends in fiscal year 26. We don't know. We've got that as a revenue in the budget as well. Beyond fiscal year 26, we don't know if the hospital will pay back the city and the county any part of that bill either. That's gotta be worked out also. All that kind of stuff that just makes me concerned, and then with property tax reform and saying, ISAC saying there's gonna be a tough could be a tough transition with, if this bill passes for property tax reform. That's why I'm not concerned if we have a little more than 30% in our budgeted general fund.
We're just a little over 30% right now, we're with 30.18.
Yeah, but we aren't with throwing 60,000 in there.
Yeah. Which, yeah.
But I like where you're going, Boyd, with that part, but not just to keep everybody at 2.75, because I do think Gail has a justified argument to put her aides at her half a dozen people at a 5.5% increase. Is they're barely getting over, they're
I
still,
know,
Yeah.
I would come up with something not to cut that at all. That really is a service that saves a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, keeping people in their homes, that's.
So
So,
besides those home health care aides, are there any other ones that you know for sure you don't want to cut their request?
well, I don't wanna cut anybody's request. I think the sheriff's thing is, you know, we might have to be more gradual. Cut that back, and, I don't know.
Comparables are kind of a difficult thing too, because if we compare them to other counties, the other counties' financial situation might be different than Floyd County. So really, comparables are a place to start, but I don't think they can be gospel.
Just,
but I don't think you could just throw $29 out there and say let's get a $29 wage
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is maybe
without anything.
someone's getting $24 an hour here and a comparable in Chickasaw, just for an example, hypothetically, is 28. Doesn't mean they should have 28 because that's what the comparable is, right? It goes both ways.
It does, and oftentimes what you find is that the duties of positions are different. Just like you said, is it a jailer doing dispatch work? Is it, we've talked about Franklin County. Franklin County Auditor's Office has 5 staff people in our office, and they're a smaller county than us. And so some of their wages are lower than ours, some are higher than ours, but she can spread that with 5 people in her office.
Well,
It's her population.
Yes.
just not having to put rock on the road doesn't save anybody in the other department. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Doesn't at all.
No, it doesn't. And, yeah, you know,
And then to put that towards building is not changing it anyway. It's putting it towards putting up new buildings.
yeah.
Doesn't change anything in the budget. If that even happens in the budget.
Well, maybe just tweaking on everything. I hate to have taxes go up too.
I think there are some, we talked about with some of these office positions. Came up with a $24 an hour number. It gives some a little bit more. But
I don't see the 2.75, I don't have your spreadsheet up, but I don't see the 2.75 as being fair with some of the office positions. I'd like to see that at that 24 number, at least on some of those. I'm even just gonna say, a couple of staff in the auditor's office, putting them at 24 and putting the two secretaries at and sheriff's office at 26, did you say? Or 25, you put them in there or whatever?
Yeah, my notes are wrong, but they're at 20, I think it was maybe 25.
They're at 26. according to
26.
What's in the budget.
I don't see that as fair.
More fair than 29.
Not for the ones that are asking for, or that 24 doesn't give them, slightly over 2.75.
Well, tough call.
What does the timeline look like? 'Cause I am
So
new to all
you-
this, so I'm gonna ask the questions.
Yes,
We have talked about wages for 6 weeks in a row now.
Yep.
And I understand that it takes it takes a lot of gathering the information and processing it, but what does that look like going forward? I know that our budget's 100% not done until the end of April, I believe is the deadline for that. But what does it look like going forward? Like when are decisions final decisions or
So
more concrete?
your window is from the meeting from the March 24th meeting to the budgets have to be done by April 30th.
Yeah.
So if we have our hearing on April 28th, for example, and you have a 10 and 20 day window to publish, we have to have numbers to the newspaper by noon on the 14th
Of April.
of April. Because North Springs Register needs them by noon to get in Wednesday's paper.
Just a month
Wednesday's
away.
paper is the only paper.
Right, roughly.
And don't make me do all that numbers all in the last second either, please.
Absolutely.
Because the numbers that had to go into getting this last, I mean, I am all for learning how to do the work and being here extra when needed. But even this last jump to get this proposed tax rate levied out, I spent an entire weekend here getting those numbers put in so that we could do that. And like I said, I'm all for making sure that my job is done properly, but please don't give me a 1 day window either from when you decide your numbers to when I have to give them to the.
But that's your timeline.
Yeah.
From the March 24th till to the newspaper at noon on the 14th. So we need to give her direction.
So what do we have to do? What do we do?
Well,
Go back to
the thing
every
is-
department head and say, you gotta cut.
Well, I can say that sometimes when I sit in that audit position, I've had some department heads who have said, I can go back to my people and say, I told you X dollars for hours, but the Board of Supervisors didn't do it. And it takes it off their shoulders and puts it on, it was the Board of Supervisors' decision, not their decision. And so that's what we bear. That whatever decisions we make are on our shoulders. Someone can come in and say, I want $29 an hour. And you can go back to the people that say, the board's only gonna do $25 or $26, whatever.
We've kind of done that, first step. We're not coming up with huge dollars here. What else are in these budgets that I'm not seeing that,
That's the thing, we're spending so much time on wages.
yes,
And we can see that's not
that's
moving the dial very much.
right.
We have almost a $16 million county budget,
18 million. about.
18 million.
I
And
mean,
we're looking for $35,000 in
yes,
efficiency.
I know that.
Yeah.
I feel like, where is it? You gotta start somewhere, but on the other hand, not on the backs maybe of this. There's gotta be,
But so then is it okay, we don't give 3% to the library, we do some other number.
Mhm.
And instead of a $2,900 increase, it's 1.5% or 1% instead of 3%.
Yeah.
Do we not fund the healthy harvest?
The
Put
what?
that at 0.
Healthy harvest.
Right, that's out. I'll make that. I mean, you know, and,
It's one step closer.
I
What
mean,
if we told every department to lower their budget by 1%?
How are you gonna lower your budget by 1%?
You know, like 6 budgets, I think.
Oh, you mean like the supervisor,
Supervisor's budget,
take a pay cut?
do the 275 instead of the 466?
They'll take any.
Oh, that's it.
We have it for years.
but again, you skeleton this thing, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and,
But,
Some budgets it's just like you said, there's a
Our
$6 million
budget-
secondary roads budget. Can't they come up with, can he come up with $600,000 cuts? I don't know.
Yeah.
Without cutting people, can anybody do that without cutting people?
I understand, but, 1% is different than 10%, you know?
well, some budgets are higher than others and some have revenues and some don't.
It's not easy.
But we gotta come up with some decisions.
What reports would you like to see so that you can come up with those decisions? I can send out new fund balances, I can send out new expense and revenues. They'll only change slightly from the ones you have just from my mistake with the wages and treasures. What do you want to see so that you guys can next week come with?
How much do we have to cut? 200,000?
Well, if you wanna go to the same tax dollar asking, it's that 200,000 number. If you take that sheet that Morgan had in our packet last week to set that max levy hearing. Again, our general service revenues are going up. General service is going from requested tax dollars going up from 6.715 million, well, basically 6.716 million, from 6.495 million. Some of that, again, there's $17,000 or $12,000 that's debt that you can't be expected to have to pick up that debt side of it.
$222,000. 222,000.
Then we gotta,
If you want to keep it at the same number of dollars.
Without raising the levy.
No, without raising the number of dollars. That would be lowering the levy. Ultimately, correct, am I thinking?
What's that?
If they kept it at the same dollar amount as last year, they would technically be lowering the levy.
Right.
Because valuation.
We have to have our general at our max, but and we could still see if we could shift something from supplemental to general. But in her 222,000 number that she had, I would say take 12,000 off that because we shouldn't have to make up for what the debt service levy is for the communications tower. So 210,000. 210,000, yeah. But I don't know that you're gonna the throttle on supplemental so much. If we move it a little bit, but some of the things we've talked about aren't in general services, like the libraries and rural services. The harvest is in general fund. So I would say for next week's meeting, if we look at those, all those departments, consider looking at them and your expenses and your revenues, and consider looking at them based on whether they're general fund or supplemental fund, and see what looks like anything that maybe with us looking at them and we see that there's a revenue that's really low compared to the 3 years of history.
Are we gonna, so I gotta get my blue book?
Yeah.
Well,
Or
basically,
is
it's
that
the,
up to date or not up to date?
well,
But
when
you
she
should have-
emailed those 3 documents and the 1 email she had, that'd be what you'd be looking at.
The email that I got from,
Yes, the
That says,
fund balance, the expense totals. and the-
report request.
So are we gonna meet next week on Monday or Tuesday?
Monday.
Monday?
Your hearing date.
No, 19, no, 17th. We're meeting on the 17th.
That's when the moratorium ends.
That's when the moratorium is.
Yes.
We're meeting the 17th.
17th, yeah.
Going forward, what are our chances of having Tuesday as a regular meeting day?
Well, you said once a week you have NIRA meetings, or once a month you have a NIRA
yeah,
meeting
and
that's
that's
on
on
Tuesday.
Tuesday, but I just got an email, it's canceled for this month.
Oh, so I will say on that used to be, Jeff Sherman used to be appointed to that years ago. And then when Roy Schwickerath got on as a county supervisor, that was Roy's forte. You know, he did through the fire department, he did the building permits and things like that. And so that led itself well to what NIRA works with, buildings and their properties. And so Roy wanted to be on the NIRA board. And so Jeff got put on as the alternate. So there is that option that it does not have to be a board of supervisor. There are some board of
Yeah.
supervisors and there's some that the counties just designate somebody
Well,
else.
I don't mind, I mean, I kinda enjoyed it,
Roy did too.
but, and maybe we'll just have to make I mean, if
I think, do they meet in the mornings then, Roy?
yeah. So,
I mean, I think once we get it figured out, it's not the end of the world to continue Monday meetings. As long as we get it figured out on what the requirements are for last time, setting some deadlines for people trying to add things to agendas. To try to not make a lot of weekend work,
Right.
to make sure packets and everything get out for a Monday morning meeting. So,
I mean, Tuesdays would be good, except for maybe an exception or something, you know?
I,
Exceptions like election canvases and your meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we can always deal with exceptions. I think for Morgan's benefit,
Yeah, we should try to go to a Tuesday if we can. Starting with,
well,
just, starting in the,
I promise it's kind of related.
in April.
yeah, that'd be okay.
setting deadlines.
And your Monday nights are good.
April,
First,
first is a Tuesday, yeah, okay.
should we do that? Should we try that?
Let's try starting April 1st, Tuesday meetings.
That probably since we did, at our organizational meeting, did we set our meeting dates for Mondays? I'm just saying maybe it should be an agenda item. If it's the intent is a permanent thing, let me see what that organizational meeting is.
What?
I just have a tax appointments meeting at 4 in the afternoon at Mason City.
The first,
Yeah, but that's all right. We'll be done by
Just wanna-
3 o'clock.
Okay, we'll look up the meeting minutes from the organizational meeting and figure out if we need to have it needs to be more formal to change our meetings.
I looked that up, I don't think it is. but-
Okay, we'll double check it. If it is, I'll add it for next week's agenda so that you guys can make that decision.
Yeah, so
the motion was to hold regular board meetings on Mondays at 9 AM in the courthouse boardroom. That was in our organizational meeting.
This would help you. We'll try it. Figure out
Maybe put your agenda item to after that.
where the heck is it.
Doesn't work, you just make a motion, and move it back.
What's that?
I said, if it doesn't work, you just make your motions and move them back.
All right, we need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Campbell, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned. Just in the nick of time, Morgan.
Yeah. Oh,
Gonna be
yeah,
back.
I was pretty sure I talked to 2 board members that, oh yeah, we'll be done for sure by 12:45. For
So
sure.
I had 11:30.
You want me to come back later today or tomorrow to sign it?
It is upstairs on the fridge, so if you're willing to come up right after.